we've got kind of a crossroads matchup today of two normally well-oiled machines, both going through somewhat of a retooling program. Injuries the cause, of course, in both cases, but a lot of youth being injected into the Dallas Cowboy program just by design. Now, Dan Jiggetts, the difference, of course, is that the Bears are going well, and they've got the experienced Jim McMahon at quarterback. Cowboys struggling a bit, trying to get an experienced Steve Pelluer at quarterback.
Well, Steve Pelluer has posted some good numbers for the Cowboys early on in the season, but they know, and Steve knows, that the key to being successful in Dallas is to win football games. Now, the other thing they're looking for Steve to do is to complement the running game. Now, Herschel Walker's going to handle that running game. Steve's got to handle that passing game for the Cowboys.
Well, the Bears have had to use some rookies by necessity. They've got injuries to starters Wilson, Dewerson, and Gale, so they've got to go with the kids today.
They sure do. Dante Jones is going to start at outside linebacker for the Bears, and at the safety position, David Tate will start. Now, the Bears don't want to start these rookies, but injuries have forced that to be the case. The other thing, though, is for the Bears, time of possession. When they have that ball more than the opponents, they win.
All right, Dan. Well, the sun is coming out just as we are about to begin our football game at Soldier Field. It rained heavily last night, again this morning, and looked threatening. However, it's now 58 degrees, cloudy, but with the sun poking through. They had turned the lights on here at Soldier Field, and I think pretty soon we'll probably see them turn them off. Roger Ruzek will kick off for the Dallas Cowboys. The Bears to receive with Thomas Sanders and Dennis Gentry back, waiting at the goal line of Chicago to our left.
As you said, they turn the lights on, and now the big guys turn the lights on up in the sky. The sun has come out. It's beautiful.
The weather has been superb here all week long. Cowboys lead this series against the Bears 9-5, but they've lost the last two games against the Chicago Bears, and of course they're looking at an NFC Central leading team at 5-1. The Cowboys at 2-4 are quick to say they need this game to stay in the Eastern Division race. Gentry bobbles it at the goal line. Works his way out to the 18-yard line. And Jim McMahon will lead out the Bears, making his 7th consecutive start. And that is the first time that McMahon has done that in his entire career. Hard to believe, but despite all his injuries, he's ready to go. He'll face this line: Jones, Brooks, Noonan, and Jeffcoat. They have been tough all season. Burton, Lockhart, and newly acquired Gary Cobb, the linebackers. Walls, Robert Williams replacing Ron Francis on the corner. Bates and Downs. Michael Downs, a questionable starter today because of a groin injury. Did not practice all week, but he is out there. In motion. McKinnon, Robert Williams, after a gain of about 8 yards to the 25-yard line. And the Bears have Neil Anderson and Matt Suey in the backfield. Gentry, McKinnon, Emery Moorhead are the receivers. John Wojciechowski still there for the injured Jim Covert. Forts, Hilgenberg, Thayer, and Van Horn. Wojciechowski is bothered with a knee himself. Covert has a back injury. He's on injured reserve. And Wojciechowski bothered with a strained knee, and we'll have to watch him closely again because it's uncertain how long he'll be able to go out there. Second and long 2. Neil Anderson. Tripped up by Robert Williams, the second-year man from Baylor on the corner. The inactive players today, you've got starters out on both sides. For the Cowboys, Michael Irvin, their #1 pick. He's been out for 2 or 3 games now. Darrell Smith, a backup tackle. Dave Dewerson missing from the Bear lineup, and Greg Lasker, newly acquired as defensive help. Dewerson out with a kidney injury.
Well, the key about Darrell Smith, though, is Darrell Smith for the Cowboys is a good pass-blocking tackle, and they're going to miss that today, certainly. Mark Tuanay is starting in this place.
Tuanay coming back off a knee injury of his own, giving Smith that opportunity to start for him. On first down, Suey. To the Bear 42, another Chicago first down. DiAssi made the tackle with Cobb.
Tim, I really like what I saw out of left tackle John Wojciechowski. We were wondering whether or not he was going to be able to handle things with that bad knee that he's got. Boy, that time was the slight play action. He just snapped those arms out there. He was going against Kevin Brooks, number 99, and he just worked him right on the line of scrimmage, moving his feet. And that's the whole key for offensive line. When you move those dogs, you can stay in front of that defensive end or tackle.
He didn't practice until Friday of this week, and when he spoke to us after practice, he was not all that confident about the knee, but nonetheless giving it a go, and so far so good. First down, Bears. Play action. Wide open in the middle, the tight end, Emery Moorhead. First down to the Dallas 45-yard line. Gary Cobb, the linebacker, stopped him there.
Well, I tell you what, Jim McMahon got good protection up front. Then watch the spacing between his offensive line and McMahon, and then you'll see Emery Moorhead, number 87. He's coming underneath of those linebackers. Now he's just crossing the numbers here, catches the football, he's wide open. Now the key is Emery caught the football because Jim McMahon got good time up front. Now watch those guys up front. Wojciechowski and Bortz working on Jim Jeffcoat, number 77. Excellent protection. He slips by late, but hey, that ball's gone.
14-yard gain on the play. Dallas 45. McMahon deep for McKinnon, just overthrown. McKinnon behind Bates and Downs.
It's too bad I had the perfect line for that one. McMahon to McKinnon, McTouchdown. You know, what the Bears want to do is they want to try to isolate one of those wideouts on Bill Bates. They feel that in a one-on-one situation, that's a good setup for them because Billy's not quite as fast as those cornerbacks are.
Well, the usually confident McMahon told us on Friday after the Bears practice that they thought they could throw on this Dallas secondary, including the linebackers. But like most teams, they want to establish the run. They haven't had to do it so far. Anderson does not establish anything except a meeting with Kevin Brooks, who straightened him up and belted him back, number 99.
But I tell you what, the key to that play, though, was Ron Burton outside. He just strung that play out. He's number 57, outside linebacker. Watch him string this play out. And watch Neil Anderson. He can't duck it up underneath. Brooks is coming out on the flow as well. Ed Too Tall Jones does a great job on the corner as well. And as a result, Neil Anderson can't turn it.
This front four, as we said, has been playing awfully well for Dallas. There's a look at Burton getting rest on the sideline, and Michael Downs.
Yeah, they take him out in that nickel situation, the passing situation, and that's what it is. He's third and long.
Francis has come in as the nickel back. Third and about 10 and a half. Up the middle for Gentry. The game just missing. Robert Williams had the coverage one-on-one. That just missed.
Dennis Gentry, when we were watching practice the other day, was catching a lot of these types of passes. You know, you get one-on-one in that situation there and just let him go against Robert Williams. Now, I'm sure the Bears are thinking that Ron Francis was going to be in there. Ron was out for a while. He was injured. Now he's, you know, he didn't play quite as well as he would like to, so they were going to isolate on him. But now Robert Williams is back, so it's a different story.
Francis has been out for a couple of months with a dislocated shoulder. Started the last two games, but replaced today. Kelvin Martin is back to receive the punt from Brian Wagner. Wagner angling for the corner, fair catch signal, and almost kept out of that end zone. A diving attempt. Number 58, Greg Clark, a rookie linebacker, but it will be a touchback. It will return to Soldier Field as the sun is coming out on a scoreless football game. Pelluer leads out the Dallas Cowboys, and it has been an up-and-down year for this young man, named as the starter at the training camp of the Cowboys this year. He's had some very good moments. He's had some difficult moments. The club is 2-4, and as Dan Jiggetts said at the top, they all know in Dallas that's the bottom line. He's got to get them into the win column. 26 years old, his fifth year from Washington, the number 5 pick in 1984. On first down, Herschel Walker gets about 3 running out the right side behind Kerr and Gogan. And defensively, the top team in the NFL, Al Harris, Steve McMichael, Dan Hampton, and Richard Dent. The linebackers, Rivera, Singletary, and today rookie Dante Jones out of Oklahoma makes his first start. Richardson, Vesty Jackson, Maurice Douglas for the injured Sean Gale, David for the injured Dave Dewerson, and David Tate for Sean Gale. So you've got 2 rookies, and Douglas, who is not the most experienced of the Bears defensive backs. But on second down, Walker is stopped by Ron Rivera. Offensively, the Cowboys with Pelluer at quarterback, Walker and Newsom the running backs, Ray Alexander, Kelvin Martin are the wide receivers, Thornton Chandler the tight end. They have a banged-up receiving corps. 2 and a back and tackle with Newton, Rafferty, Kerr, and Gogan. Now remember, the Cops picked Michael Irvin out of action. Kelvin Edwards is hurt. They would be the starters at wideout. And Doug Cosby, the tight end, with an Achilles problem, in uniform but not starting. Third down. Pelluer flush, and he'll run for a first down. Oh, what a hit. He dropped the ball. Singletary put a hit on him on the slide. Bears have the football, but will they keep it?
The key question is, how is Steve Pelluer? He took a wrap that time. Boy, you know, he's just starting into the slide when he gets stuck.
Well, certainly the most important question is the health of Pelluer off the hit, but I think another question, Dan, is he was trying to slide in there. He's supposed to get protection from that.
But he just started to slide. Now here he is coming back and setting up. He doesn't see anything immediately downfield, so he sees a lane to run in. He takes advantage of that. Now watch when he gets along in numbers. He goes into the hook slide, but boy, he got sandwiched in between 2 Bear defenders. Key among them, Mike Singletary, and they really put a stick on him. Maurice Douglas was the other guy. Now watch this again from the right in close. Maurice Douglas comes in the back, and Singletary takes him out in the front. Boy, I tell you what, that's a tough shot to take. Earlier today on the NFL Today, they talked about quarterbacks getting injured and what can you do? Well, this is the kind of thing that if you're going to run that football, you got to hit the ground before those defenders have a chance to get to you, just to protect your own self.
Maurice Douglas made the initial contact, and then Singletary, so it was a tough sandwich on Pelluer. Al Harris came up with the loose ball, and there was no flag on the play that I'm aware of as yet, and therefore the feeling must have been that it was a legal hit. The fact being, as you indicated, Dan, that maybe he didn't get that slide established soon enough before the defensive players could prevent themselves from putting the hit on him. He's still a runner to them at that point.
Well, you know, Paul Hackett, the quarterback coach of the Cowboys, mentioned to us the other day, he said, hey, look, I'm trying to teach this young guy, you know, slide in there, don't take that chance, because he's always trying to win this team, is what he said. He wants to win over the guys. Hey, I'm the starting quarterback, and I'm going to be a good guy for you. But you can't do it if you're taking a walk to the sideline and you're half-conscious. You have to take that slide and take what the defense is giving you and get yourself down on the ground and protect yourself.
Pelluer will get a rest for now, at least, and see where they've spotted the ball at the 30-yard line, just short of the first down. They haven't moved the marker up yet as they've been completing the attention to Pelluer, who has gone to the sideline, and Danny White is now in at quarterback, and he did make the first down marker. They're very slow in moving the sticks, but it is a first down, Dallas. Danny White, the veteran, comes in at quarterback. Chandler makes the strong side right. Walker. A big hole for Walker, and he just blew through there, keeping the legs chugging for a gain of about 8 yards. Finally, Singletary and Dent haul him down.
Jim Erkenbach, the offensive line coach of the Cowboys, likes these 300-pounders he's got up front. I like him, too. Herschel Walker, you hand the ball off to him, he's 230 pounds. And look how many guys it takes to stop him. David Tate, the safety, is trying to stop him. He's number 49. He weighs 180 pounds. Tough to stop a guy when he's got that kind of steam rolling. And there's Steve Pelluer over the sidelines getting checked out.
Evidently, he did get a little shot in the head there as they seem to be working on his jaw on the bench. Second down and 2. White, the quarterback, for the injured Pelluer. Walker, first down, Dallas, to the 43-yard line.
You know, the nice thing about this Dallas offensive line is they are big guys. You know, they come from that 255 thing that Tom Landry had going back in the 70s to now they're 300-pounders all along that front line. And then you see clearly the numbers have gone up from 85 to 88. That's 294 pounds. Those are some big men. And what they do is they zone block up front. That means everybody steps to the same side and they all block together. So regardless of what scheme you're running defensively, somebody's on you.
That's because they're so big that they can't run like those littler guys used to.
You tell them.
First down. White, complete to Cosby for a gain of 9. Doug Cosby, the 10-year man from Santa Clara, bothered with an Achilles injury, has not played much in the last couple of games because of that injury. And Thornton Chandler, the young man from Alabama, has been playing there.
Thornton Chandler. That sounds like an author's name, doesn't it? Like Thornton Wilder.
Yeah, it does. I like that. Thornton Chandler.
This does, but hey, you know, he's a guy that the Dallas Cowboys are really depending on to give him that added dimension as well, along with Steve Pelluer. Another one of those go-to guys that they can have besides Herschel Walker.
It'll be 2nd and a yard. 2 tight ends in now, Chandler and Cosby on the short yardage. Play action fake to Walker, and White going deep. Wide open, but overthrown. Kelvin Martin, number 83, the second-year man from Boston College. And that was a perfectly executed play, except for the pass about 2 yards long.
Well, Kelvin Martin is playing with a cast on his left wrist. He's fractured the wrist last week or a week or so ago, and that's going to affect his pass-catching ability, but it certainly doesn't affect his overall speed and outstanding speed down the field.
Landry's been very pleased with his play because, remember, again, Michael Irvin out with an ankle injury among the missing, and Calvin Edwards been bothered with a leg injury. Martin's taken up the slack. Walker trying for the first down. It'll be close. Bears think they stopped him. Singletary and Al Harris. They did not need much, however, and forward progress will bring in the sticks for a measurement.
That's like easy money when you take Herschel Walker and you try to gain a yard, but you know that Bear defense is pretty tough, slanting in and penetrating across the line of scrimmage, and that way they prevent you from getting that movement that you need up front.
You may have got enough movement anyway. Well, no, the Bears accomplished the task. Stopping them. Now, you know, you have to like the call on 2nd down, but they didn't get it on 3rd.
That's it. Now watch 76 Steve McMichaels. Watch the penetration. He gets across the line of scrimmage, takes on the lead back, and as a result, Herschel doesn't have anybody to block for him over the other side. Singletary is able to make the stop. That lead back would like to get to that linebacker and block him, Singletary, but he wasn't able to.
There's Singletary, intent as always on the punt play. He's organizing everybody out there, and I think they're just fearful that they might fake it here. But Saxon will punt it. And it's off the side of his foot, a shank. Out of bounds near the 25-yard line of the Bears. Maybe upfield of that. They spot it at the 29. So Saxon, who had a good week last week for Dallas, shanks his first one here this afternoon. And we'll be back at Soldier Field in a moment. Tim Ryan with Dan Jiggetts at Soldier Field. You're looking at Steve Pelluer, number 16, in the back of your picture. And he has just sustained a shot to the jaw that has him on the sidelines. But they say he will come back. He's bleeding a little from the mouth, sandwiched by Douglas and Singletary. And one of our folks over there heard him tell Danny White that he took an elbow from up underneath the chin strap and underneath the face guard of the helmet. But he plans to come back. Bears have the ball. First down at their 29 after a 19-yard punt by Saxon. McMahon for Morris, almost picked off by Everson Walls, as McMahon now has thrown the ball just long on 3 deep tries, and that one nearly resulted in an intercept.
Yeah, you're tempted to say Everson Walls, the receiver, on the play, because he plays it better than the receiver does, and that's Ron Morris going downfield with him. But Everson is just out of his reach, and he tumbles over on the ground. But the thing is that Jim McMahon has to like is he's getting plenty of time to sit in that pocket and throw the football deep. That's something that the Bears have not done a whole lot of this season.
McMahon 3 of 6 for 32 yards to this point. Second offensive series for the Bears. Here in the first period, the sun is shining brightly while the lights are still on because it was cloudy and rainy this morning. Draw play Suey, and nowhere to go for Suey. Breaks loose from the first contact and turned it into about a 3-yard gain. Kevin Brooks had him wrapped up, but Suey just kept plowing away, and it was Bates who finally stopped him.
Well, I tell you what, what Matt Suey looked like that time was one of those guys when he was running in the stream, against the stream in the hard water, because he kept getting bumped. He'd stop, and then he'd gain a little bit more yardage. He runs so low to the ground, though. That's the key. Low center of gravity, and that makes it very difficult for anyone to stop him when he gets down in there.
Game of interest to NFC Central followers. Green Bay on top of Minnesota. Minnesota struggled against Tampa last week and finally won at 5 points. Suey got nearly 5 out of that, as it turned out. 3 wide receivers in now for the Bears. McKinnon, Kozlowski, and Wendell Davis. A flag down. Man in trouble. Sack. But a flag on the play. It was Gary Cobb, number 59, who brought him down.
He got him on the hard snap count, though. He got the Dallas defensive line on this hard snap count.
Illegal motion, back left early, declined, fourth down.
Well, he may have got him. He got his own guy, too.
He got his own back.
Illegal motion against the Bears does not make the Big Bear Ditka happy, and Chicago will have to punt.
Come on, Wagner.
Brian Wagner. Last week, 8 punts, 47.5-yard average against the Lions. This one comes down at the 25-yard line. Kelvin Martin, good return to the 39-yard line after a 47-yard punt. Dallas with good field position. When we return, scoreless football game.
46 yards.
Ryan and Dan Jiggetts in a now bright Chicago at Soldier Field. Danny White continues at quarterback. Pelluer says he wants back in, but they're staying with White for the moment, who just a week ago was unhappy at his mop-up role in the loss against Washington. On first down, complete to Alexander. Alexander gets about 9 on the play. Now, Danny, what difference do you think this will bring to the look of the Dallas attack, White instead of Pelluer?
Well, I think the thing that Danny brings to the game is the fact that he's more of a touch passer. Paul Hackett, the quarterback coach, was telling us last night, he's the guy that's real smooth, can dink it out to the backs, get the receivers on the short routes, such as that one to Alexander. Now, Steve Pelluer is more the downfield guy. He likes to throw the 20-yard pattern downfield. And as a result, you'll see more of that dink stuff with Danny White, and look for Herschel Walker to start catching the football.
2nd and a yard for Dallas, near midfield. Neither team has been able to sustain a drive as yet. We're still in the first period. Walker for the first down. Dallas into Bear territory at the 48-yard line. And now for an NFL update, let's go to Brent Musburger at our studios in New York.
Well, Tim, you flashed the score, and here is the Phoenix Cardinal touchdown. Neil Omak's 11th scoring pass of the season goes to Jetstream Roy Green. There is a safety right now, and it is 7-2. Let me update that. The Redskins just get on the board. Let's go back to Tim.
Cardinals, they're playing with a lot of confidence, Dan. We saw them against the Rams, and
They are for real.
they are for real. First down. White, complete. Close to another first down. Cosby, playing with that Achilles, has made 2 catches for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and that
Dante
time
Jones on him.
Doug found himself working against Dante Jones, number 53, excuse me, and he'll be on the right side of your screen. Now, Cosby runs that out pattern, and then watch him. He's got the outside linebacker beat already, the young rookie. Now, you know Doug is setting him up over there, giving him that outside, and then they're going to send him in that seam, particularly if they keep getting man-to-man coverage on that play.
Well, Dante has been backing up Mike Singletary in the middle. This is really kind of a new role for him out there, and he's being asked to start outside. And the irony of it is that they put him out there ahead of Mickey Pruitt because he's a bigger guy, anticipating the Herschel Walker attack. 2nd and 1. Inside, Walker for another Dallas first down. The 36-yard line. And the Cowboys on the move with Danny White at quarterback, Dan Hampton and Singletary on the stop.
And the Dallas Cowboys early in this game, at least from a running game standpoint, have been fairly right-handed. Seem to like running behind Tom Rafferty, Crawford Kerr, and Kevin Gogan up there. Those big guys over on the right offensive side of the ball for the Cowboys. Herschel Walker likes to feature those big men up front over there.
First down, Dallas. Bear 36, and this time they stuffed Newsom right at the line of scrimmage. Hampton slipping between blockers and making the stop.
Well, Dan Hampton told us that if he gets one-on-one with a guy, he feels like he's always going to beat him. Now he's working one-on-one with the center. He just slip blocks there off of Rafferty, and he meets Timmy Newsom at about 2 yards in the backfield.
Newsom's forward momentum got him about a half yard, so it's 2nd and a long 9 from the 35 of Chicago. All-pro Dan Hampton having an all-pro year again. Alexander having difficulty with the play or the count, one or the other. White under pressure and sacked. Back to the 40-yard line. Jones.
Well, you know, when you get down in this area, this is the area inside that 40-yard line where the Bears like to bring the blitz, and that's what they do this time. Number 53, Jones, he comes from outside, steps back inside. He had Gogan working up the field, and then you see that Singletary and all those guys get in the middle of McMichael, and they just close it down.
That'll leave 3rd down and 15. Todd Crum and Lemuel Stinson, 2 more rookie defensive backs come in for the Bears. Adding extra defense against the wide receiver corps. White sacked again. McMichael.
We talk about Pro Bowl efforts. Nobody's been playing better on a defensive line than 76 Steve McMichaels. You're going to see him coming from the right side of your screen. He beats Gogan there, and he just rips Danny White. Got him on that inside move, worked him up the field about 2 yards, and then came right up underneath Gogan. Realized that Gogan's a big offensive tackle, not as nifty on his feet.
McMichael, a sack and a half today. That brings him up to 5 on the season. McKinnon back to receive the punt from Saxon. Oh, he hits a dandy this time. So Chicago will start from their own 20 as their defense has risen up to stop the Cowboys. We'll be back. First quarter, Soldier Field, Chicago. No score as yet. It's been a defensive battle, and both teams are doing the job. Tim Ryan and Dan Jiggetts. And Dan, the ironies of this quarterback situation in the NFL continue. All of the injuries. Steve Pelluer getting his chance. Danny White, unhappy last week. Here he is.
Yeah, you know, I saw him last night in the hotel, and he was kind of, he had a smile on his face and everything. But, hey, you never know what's going to happen now with all these quarterbacks going down.
Well, the Bears quarterback is McMahon. He gives it to Neil Anderson, and he shakes tackles and shakes loose.
Neil got a little reverse field action on that play. Didn't see anything over on his right side. Now watch him just reverse the field. A little counter action there, and he makes the counter action. Steps up in there, nothing there. Hey, shake off Randy White. Head for the corner. Oops, yeah, now there's another tackler. Let me get away from him. Steve DiAsi, you're not going to catch me. Now he just heads up the field. But you know, that's the dimension that Neil Anderson brings that Walter Payton didn't have in the last couple of years of his career, is that speed to turn that corner outside wide.
First down, Chicago at their own 41-yard line. Play action. Lots of time for McMahon. Now he's running out. Randy White, the great veteran, makes the stop. Good coverage downfield by the Cowboys that time. There was ample time for McMahon, but the good coverage deep finally gave White the chance to catch up with him, Danny.
Now watch Randy. He's number 54. He's working outside against Emery Moorhead. Emery cuts him, but with a good athlete like Randy, that's not good enough. You got to stay in that guy's face. He gets up in McMahon's face and makes the sack. And as you said, good coverage downfield usually causes that kind of thing to happen.
35-year-old Randy White sharing time with both of the defensive ends, Jeffcoat and Jones, and both of the tackles. They're just spotting him here and there along the line, and he can still help anybody. Second down, 17. Grant Muster, the Stanford rookie, gets back most of the loss to the original line of scrimmage where Ron Francis and Bill Bates stop him.
You know, when you look at the Bears running backs, I mentioned earlier that Walter Payton at the end of his career didn't have that outside corner speed like he did for the first 8 or 9 years. But really what they've done now is they spread the ball out more, giving it to more people, put it in more people's hands, such as a Brad Muster. They know that Brad, coming out of Stanford, caught a lot of passes out of the backfield. So, hey, why not run him on the screen? That time they got a nice cut block out there on Jim Jeffcoat, number 77. Set that play up very nicely.
It leaves 3rd and 11. Time winding down first quarter. Still no score. Nice defensive play by Ron Francis. Flags down, however. The pass intended for Wendell Davis, and it looked like Francis made a nice diving bat of the ball.
It sure did. It looked like he had some spacing in there as well.
But maybe the infraction was off that play. We'll find out from referee Jim Tunney. doubt that it's on the Francis defensive play.
Defense, number 39, first down.
Well, they call it 39, but they must mean Francis 38. And so he was flagged for interference, and it may have been a push before he actually made the dive on the ball. It had to be.
A lot of times you reach over and you got that backhand working on the guy's back, and as a result, that's when you get the penalty, and that's where that official can see it as well.
So it's first down, Chicago at their own 46-yard line. For Neil Anderson, and he's close to the first down. Gary Cobb drives him out after a gain of about 9. That'll bring us to the end of the first quarter here at Soldier Field. The defenses have dominated, as the score would indicate. Dallas and Chicago are scoreless. It is now a brilliant sunny afternoon in Chicago after a rainy, dull morning. The grass still a little wet here at Soldier Field. Dust a little slippery. Second down, pardon me, Bears, as we begin the second period. 2nd and a yard to go at the Dallas 46-yard line. Slot formation to the left. In motion from the slot. Matsui has the first down for the Bears. He moves the ball to the 43-yard line of Dallas. Lockhart and Burton make the stop there. And if you've just joined us along the way, when the Cowboys return offensively, as we see the first quarter points for the Bears, they've been off to a great start this season, but shut out in the first period by a tough Dallas defense here. But getting back to the Dallas quarterback situation, Steve Pelluer hit in the jaw, sliding in for a first down by Douglas and Singletary. We're told now he did suffer a slight concussion, will not be back. That happened to McMahon last week against Detroit. McMahon flips from the pocket. Now he runs and he slides and survives at the 30-yard line with a Bear first down.
Now, speaking of slides, though, you saw when Jim McMahon started his. He started at about 5 yards before he got to those defensive personnel. He understands that, hey, look, you got to get down to that grass and get to second base. Don't mess around.
But he didn't used to. Well, he probably always understood it, but he did what he wanted to do, which was similar to what you described Pelluer is doing, trying to prove to his teammates that he can make the big play, that he had the guts necessary to play in this league. But Mike Ditka now says he's happy with the change in approach that McMahon has brought to the game this season, that he knows he's got to be out on the field to help them. He's got to survive. And he has started 7 consecutive games for the first time. On first down, Anderson gets about 3 on the little swing pass, driven out by Lockhart.
Well, I tell you what, he shook Gary Cobb to the ground, though, on that play, and Eugene had to come over and make the tackle for Gary. Gary was standing there in position to make the stop. Neil gave him that little leg shake and just took off down the field.
You know, underneath that tape on Lockhart's shoes is written a little slogan, "No pity." Last year he was hurt in a game against Atlanta, broke his leg in game 11 of last season, and feeling a little sorry for himself. You could just see some of the writing there, and decided that, hey, you got to have the right attitude, and he was going to give himself no pity. His teammates think he's giving none to the opponents as well. 2nd and 5. Anderson gets about 3.
Well, I tell you what, I like that little spin move that Neil used going through the line of scrimmage. Just plant it and roll around. It's a dangerous move, particularly on the line of scrimmage, but he's able to effectively do it and get that little extra yardage there just when you come off of that and roll past the secondary.
Big Kevin Brooks along with Lockhart again, combining to stop Anderson. It'll be 3rd down and 2. The ball at the 22-yard line of Dallas. The deepest penetration by either team in the ball game thus far. Pitch out to Suey. First down, Chicago. Dallas 19.
Now, the reason why this play is successful successful as number 63, Jay Hilgenberg, pulls out. He's the center. I don't know how many times you see a center pulling out, but watch him lead the play around. Good corner block there by Van Horn, and then you see Matsui just shoot it straight up in the line of scrimmage. But Jay Hilgenberg, you know, those centers like for you to mention it when they pull out. We saw it the other day at practice, and he came over to me and says, hey, make sure you mention it if I pull out. So he's covered now.
It was Lockhart again. There's a rushing game going well for them. They started with the deep pass, and they've come back with the run, and it's been more effective. Not this time. Brooks nailing Anderson for a loss back to the 25.
Boy, I tell you what now, the other thing that you have to do as a center and the backside tackle is cut off that backside pressure. Now watch number 99, Kevin Brooks. He comes in from that backside, just slices in there. Tom Thayer pulled out, and he's leading out on the play, but somebody's got to block Kevin Brooks, and it never happened back there.
And, you know, they've got 5 defensive linemen in their active roster, and 4 of them are #1 picks. Make it 5 out of 6 defensive linemen on their roster. Danny White, Jeff Croat, Noonan, Brooks, and Jones, all #1 choices. Second down and 16. Draw play, Anderson. Short of the first down, but gets the ball to the 11-yard line of Dallas. Robert Williams stopped him there, forcing him out of bounds.
Well, I tell you what, on this play, Neil Anderson has nowhere to go because that defensive line of Dallas understands that it's a draw play. Now watch Neil bounce it back out on the left side. He takes off on that side. Now that's that outside speed that he brings to this team, that new dimension. There you see him. He almost outruns the secondary and Robert Williams.
7 carries, 44 yards now for Neil Anderson of the Bears. Third down. Suey and Sanders, the running backs. They need 1.5 yards. Flags are down. Suey has the yardage, but we'll have to wait for the call. And it's against Dallas. Jeffcoat and Jones, the defensive ends, made the stop. Tom Landry will not be pleased with this infraction against the Cowboys, deep in their own territory inside the 10.
Knowing the way that Tom Landry is, he's probably already thinking, well, if they score here, if they get the field goal, they get the touchdown.
Outside, number 99 defense, 5 yards, makes it a first down.
This is what I want to come back with. He's always a couple of steps ahead of everybody else's thinking, and that's what's made him a great coach.
Interesting listening to Paul Hackett talk about Landry last night with almost a reverence, plenty of respect, but almost a reverence about what a thrill it is to be part of his staff and to be learning from a man who's had such a tremendously successful career. First and goal. Chicago threatening for the first time in the game. Sanders hit hard and gang tackled at the 4-yard line. Brooks with the initial contact, and 4 other Cowboys right behind him. Lockhart peels himself off, the linebacker Cobb, and Bill Bates, who's usually around the ball.
He's always around the ball, and usually head first. But you know that the Cowboy defense has played very well this season, and that's what's really kept the Cowboys in a lot of games. Now, the problem that they have had is, you know, hey, look, offensively, you got to get down. When you get down in that area, you got to put the football in the end zone, and that's something that, you know, they're concerned about now, but their defense has done a good job for them.
Suey and Anderson. Bears have been successful in this area. Reverse, McKinnon, nobody home, touchdown. McMahon was out there looking to block, and fortunately for him and the Bears, he didn't have to.
They sure did. Neil Anderson here hands it back to Dennis McKinnon on the reverse. Now watch McMahon. He's looking to throw on somebody. He's going, where is he? Where is he? Van Horn is up there. But hey, Dennis just coasts into the end zone. No one at home.
Butler for the point after. The Bears have broken the ice at Soldier Field, and they now lead the Dallas Cowboys 7-0 with 9:39 to go first half.
What makes the reverse work so well is you pull both guards. Now that tells the defense that you're going to try to sweep to the left. Now watch Neil Anderson. He's going to come this way and then hand off to McKinnon coming back. And Ron Burton is the last guy out there, and he can't make it back in time. There you see Neil with the handoff now back to Dennis McKinnon. He takes it in. Burton's the last guy in the line of defense, and they go in for the score. Bears 6 points.
So Butler will kick it off. The deep inner Mark Higgs and Cornell Burbage. He was activated this week by the Cowboys. He comes to Higgs, the rookie. And Higgs battles his way out to the 20-yard line after bobbling the ball on the catch. Greg Clark, rookie linebacker, made the tackle. Jim Ryan with Dan Jiggetts here at Soldier Field, and the Cowboys falling prey to the problem that has afflicted so many teams this season. Steve Pelluer knocked out with a concussion trying to run for a first down. The only score by Chicago's Dennis McKinnon moments ago on a reverse after an 80-yard drive, 13 plays, 7 first downs, and most significantly 7 minutes on the clock by the Chicago Bears. Dallas first down at their 20. White, the quarterback. Walker met at the corner by Dante Jones, and asking young Mr. Jones about meeting Herschel Walker head-on, one-on-one. How was he going to do? He sounded pretty confident.
Yeah, he did pretty well in the preseason against the Cowboys as well. And what helped that time is Ron Rivera, 59, came up and really put strong pressure outside on the Cowboys offense. And as a result, Herschel had to turn that ball upfield, and he wasn't prepared to meet Mr. Jones.
Right into Mr. Jones, who goes 235, and Walker 225. 2-yard gain for Walker. White gets time, deep sideline. Intercepted, but out of bounds. Now, wait a minute. Now they're saying the interception is going to be an inbounds play. David Tate, the rookie from Colorado, starting for the injured Sean Gale. He made a great catch, whether they give it to him inbounds or out of bounds.
Well, you know, that free safety is supposed to play like center field, and David Tate does it beautifully here. Reaches right there in front of the receiver now. Both feet in bounds. That's the key question. And the other receiver had a hand on him, and quite possibly that may be the reason why they're looking at this play. Said, gee, did that receiver push him out of bounds when he came down?
Well, the first indication was out of bounds from side judge Nate Jones. I saw that clearly. However, immediately 2 other officials came over to indicate that no, they thought he was inbounds with the interception, and the Bear offense is on the field. What a catch by Tate.
Yeah, here's another look at it. Now watch, David Tate comes over and real soft hands on this thing. He just comes up very nicely and picks it off. Now, see, the receiver's got the hand on him there, and he got both feet in bounds. There you saw very clearly the toes were in bounds before he fell out of bounds, and that's why the Bears have the football.
Well, and you mentioned the added element that he could have been pushed out a little bit by the intended receiver Martin. But while they are reviewing it, the Bears have their offensive team on the field, and young David Tate, who had to step in for Sean Gale, a rookie out of Colorado, a number 10 choice of the Bears this year, just made himself a great catch no matter what.
Now, Tim, here's another look at it. Now, watch the feet of Tate once he comes back down to the ground. Watch the toes. That's the key.
Play is confirmed as an interception. First down.
Both feet are in bounds, and indeed, the Bears do have the ball offensively. Here's another look at it. Now watch the toes of David Tate. Both of them come down inbounds. You don't see that white line on the sideline come up until he falls out of bounds over it.
Tate had an interception against Buffalo in a nickelback role. He said that's when he felt the team really accepted him as no longer being just a rookie. Well, he comes up big here again today as a starter. First down, Chicago. Good faking by McMahon. Deep in, overthrows Gentry again. Gentry looking for an interference call, but none forthcoming there. The coverage by Robert Williams, and Gentry actually ran into Williams trying to catch up to the overthrow.
Well, I'm sure what the Bears is, they looked at the tapes of last week's game against the Redskins with the Cowboys. They said, hey, look, let's try to stretch this defense a little bit. Let's go downfield and see what's down there. But now, you know, this play action and the running game has been working so well for them. Why not stay with that and just be confident in what you can do and what you know you can accomplish and get down in there if you're trying to get another score. Now, you're the Cowboys defense. You understand the fact that they're going to test you on those corners, particularly Williams at the outside.
Second and 10 at their own 46. Muster and Sanders. Another reverse. Ron Morris and McMahon with a good block. Ron Morris to the 32-yard line. Everson Walls got him there. How about that play? And keep your eye on number 9.
Yeah, I don't know if we can give him credit for the block. We'll give him credit for the roll, though. Now watch McMahon here on the reverse. He hands off to Thomas Sanders. Now see, again, those two guards are pulling out in front. Ball back to Morris. He comes back in and tucks it back up underneath. Sees those two big tackles out front there giving him good protection. McMahon has thrown the block already, or the roll, I'll say. And now Ron Morris goes downfield. He got the block on Gary Cobb, took him out on the corner.
Well, it's a first down, a 22-yard gain for Ron Morris. Wide receiver. The two reverses have been successful for the Bears. Overthrowing Muster under pressure from a blitzing Ron Burton. McMahon let that ball go a little too quickly.
He's got too much macho working for him now after that big block. You know, he wants to be an offensive lineman now.
Well, he had Muster all wide open, but even Michael Jordan, watching from the sidelines, couldn't have caught that one. That was higher than even Jabbar might have been able to reach for his suggestion last week.
Well, I tell you what, there's Otis Wilson who is standing there alongside of him. Otis likes to feature himself as a awfully good basketball player and thinks he's in that class with Michael Jordan.
Wilson out with a knee injury, gone for the season. Bears starting to rack it up in the stat department. Lots of time for McMahon. And again, a bad pass intended for Morris. That'll bring up third down.
McMahon took a little bit of a pop there right at the end, just as he delivered for Mark Wallen, and but he's back up and he's all right. But you know what? That's the kind of thing that really shocks that quarterback after a while. You take enough of those things, you get a little dizzy.
Well, he's not too happy at his errant throws. He's had several of them off. 4 series now, 6 of 12. Defensive backs in for the Cowboys on the passing down. Hendricks, Francis joining the front 4. Incomplete in the end zone, broken up by Ron Francis, the second-year man from Baylor.
What you saw the Dallas cornerbacks do is come up in that press position, and that way they wait until Jim McMahon makes his call, and then they back off, and this is the coverage that they give you downfield. Wendell Davis thought he was going to have to do that shake move off the line of scrimmage, but no, he does not. He is covered downfield in the end zone. Excellent play by the defensive secondary of the Cowboys.
But it brings up 4th down, and Kevin Butler comes on.
Guard, timeout, Chicago, number 1.
The Bears have taken a timeout here with 8:07 remaining in the first half. Chicago on top 7-0. Mike Ditka, during the timeout, made the decision to go for it. It would have been a 51-yard field goal attempt for Butler, his all-time long of 52, and his best this year of 40. So he's going with 4 wide receivers on 4th and 10. From the Dallas 34-yard line. Complete to Morris. First down, Chicago. Everson Walls on the tackle, but a gutsy and well-executed play for the Bears gets them first down.
Ron Morris right across the middle of the field there. He's got Everson Walls beat down the middle. Now he just takes off, and he knows he's got the first down. Now he's trying to get that extra yardage.
A 15-yard pickup on the pass, and McMahon had thrown 3 bad passes in a row prior to that, but he delivers when it was needed. So the Bears keep the football. They have had it much of this first half. Muster and Sanders, the running backs. The pass too low, intended for McKinnon. Another well-designed play that had yardage marked all over it, but McMahon again unhappy with himself. He threw it into the
a question of mechanics today with Jim McMahon. You know, he probably just doesn't have the mechanics down the way he wants to, because that time it was just a simple little toss out there, and he really put it down on the ground.
Well, McMahon featured this week on the cover of Chicago Magazine, a quite revealing story in that magazine this week. A lot of interesting personal material, and I think one of the interesting aspects is his own comparison to the character Randall McMurphy and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Rolling right this time. McMahon, this one is complete. McKinnon, they just ran the same play the other way. First down.
Well, the thing that Mike Ditka knows so well from having coached down in Dallas with Tom Landry is Tom works so much off of tendencies. He says, hey, look, you know, I know that the tendency is not to run the same play twice, so why not let's go back with it again. That time it was open. Let's come back with it again to the other side and try to see if it works.
Well, it worked, but it may not be the full 10. They're going to measure now. McMahon's over there saying, boy, it looked like 10 to me.
He's got his own measurement.
Yeah, he's going to watch this closely. And it's going to come up short. About a half a yard. McMahon said of Randall McMurphy in that film role played by Jack Nicholson, he was just misunderstood. He could have escaped, but he stayed to help his friends, and then he got zapped. And he says maybe he's been zapped with the same kind of attitude here in Chicago.
But he eats it up. He loves it. You know, he kind of thrives off of that whole attention thing and the fact that people think that he's a little off base, and he really doesn't care that much about what people think. He just does his own thing.
Well, he is a little off base. Third down, less than a yard. Inside the 10.
He got great blocking up front. Now watch the center, Hilgenberg, the two guards, Bortz and Thayer. They clean out that middle very nicely for him. Then you see Hilgenberg works on to the linebacker, and that's what also gives McMahon that extra room to run up in the middle. Hilgenberg chipped off that down tackle and then went straight up to that middle linebacker, and that's what helped the play be successful.
Lockhart held his ground to prevent him from going right into the end zone. Moorhead has been joined by James Thornton and Brent Novoselsky, three tight ends, as they try to close off this long drive with a touchdown. And McMahon just throws that one away. He had pressure from two Cowboys, a blitzing Billy Bates and Everson Walls.
So I tell you one thing, that photographer down in the end zone got a great shot of that pass because it went right into his lens. It's a dangerous spot to be in down there, particularly when you've got a camera right in your face.
Well, there was no bear around to prevent the ball from going anywhere else. He was just unloading it.
That's it.
11th play of this drive for Chicago, and again, the real killer for Dallas is the time being used up by the Bears on the clock, Dan. You said at the top that that's what they try to do, and they've been successful. Goal line defense in. Sanders is stuffed on a tough defensive play. Linebacker Steve Diassi. And Mark Wellen, the defensive lineman number 95. Diassi, the 5-year man from Boston College.
Now the Bears are going to try to run wide on this play with Thomas Sanders, but watch the action on the corner there. Diassi slips off a block. Now the play gets shut down outside by Billy Owens. Now watch Diassi come in here. He gets some help from inside from Jeffcoat, and as a result, the Bears aren't successful on that play. Now what you're trying to do when you get down this area of the goal line is probably to keep it inside. It's a little bit easier to run inside and be successful getting in the end zone or play action, one of the two.
Third and goal from the 3. Incomplete for Thornton. The pressure came from Ed Too Tall Jones.
tell you what, the way that Cowboy defensive line came through, it looked like a screen pass. Look at all those guys chasing Jim McMahon. There's 4 guys on his case, and he just unloads it, and Ed Too Tall Jones comes over and gives him that little shot down there that all the quarterbacks love to get.
You know, I asked McMahon about Jones and that height and his ability to bat away balls, you know, and he said there is no way that you can ignore him. There's no way you can pretend that he isn't going to be in your face with those hands up.
Hey, Tim, this guy, Ed Too Tall Jones, blocked a field goal over me when I was playing for the Bears, and he didn't even jump.
Well, Butler will try from the 11-yard line, and he has a 21-yard field goal. So the Cowboys, with a good defensive surge inside their 5, hold the Bears to 3. It looks like old Ed and his partner made the game today. That's pretty cute. They made a CBS guy out of him. We like that. Kickoff is down in the end zone by Burbage. It was a deep kick by Butler. You know, I actually got an autographed picture from those guys last year after we had some fun with Chris Miller's father in the Atlanta-San Francisco game, who reminded me of old Ed there. Well, college football next week is going to be an exciting matchup because at 2:30 Eastern time, you'll see the Penn State Nittany Lions battle the Alabama Crimson Tide at Birmingham Legion Field. And that's college football action next Saturday right here on CBS Sports. If it's anything at all like what we saw yesterday, Notre Dame from Miami.
I'm telling you, remember back to that Sugar Bowl game that they had a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense rivalry for 2 teams that are from different parts of the country. On first down, White to Newsom. Takes a tough shot, knocked flying by Singletary, but he gained about 6 to the 26-yard line.
Well, I tell you what, Mike Singletary is like a Stinger missile out there today. That's the second real tough shot he's gotten on one of the Cowboys today. You know, he's known for that, but boy, when he gets those shots on you, when you're just a little off balance, you know that you're going to feel it for a couple of days. I remember one time we were practicing, I came down and down blocked on him, and he bent the steel on my face mask, and that was only in his rookie year. He's a tough guy.
He is a tough guy, like Singletary. Second down. Herschel Walker tiptoeing up, has the first down. Maurice Douglas just gave him enough of an angle to force him out of bounds, because had he turned it up the sideline stand, he was looking at daylight.
Oh, I'm telling you, you know, Herschel Walker, we were talking with him last night about when we played here in the USFL, he turned a play like that into about an 80-yard touchdown play, because when he hits that sideline, he is gone, because there's nobody that can catch him. I don't care what kind of angle your secondary people have on him, he's gone.
Look at those numbers. What an awesome year.
He's an awesome person. I really like this guy. You know, he's got so much about his personality that's there to like. He's a good, wholesome guy.
First down, Dallas. Sack, Hampton. Third Chicago sack on the Dallas quarterbacks, and Hampton hurt on the play.
You see, Dan looks like he is in a lot of pain. And when a guy like him has had as many operations and injuries as he has had over his career lays down on the field, you know it's bad. He is not one to lay down for the camera. We will definitely get a report to you as quickly as we possibly can. You know, the big guys that look like he got hit on that tailbone there. He's holding his hip a little bit. Now here he is right in the middle of your screen, number 99, Dan Hampton. He's going to come in on the sack. And there's him working over the center. He beats him right now. Gets a little pressure from the guard there. That's Nate Newton. And he just grabs a hold of Danny White. And there you see that somebody is sitting right on his back there. And that's where he got that shot on the hip.
Yeah, I think it might have been his own man, Maurice Douglas, who was coming in to help with the tackle. It looked like he might have made contact with his helmet onto Hampton. We'll have a word for him when they see that in the film.
He sure will.
In to replace him, Dick Chapura, second-year man from Missouri, their 11th choice last year. Big 280-pounder, number 94. Second and 17. Screen pass, Walker, flags down, and Tate with a diving block at the legs of Walker upsets him.
And Tim Newsom is down on the ground holding his knee. Another injury that the Dallas Cowboys absolutely could not afford at this point.
A hard-hitting football game taking its toll. Find out what the flag is as Newsom is on his feet. We're happy to see. Danny White getting the call, so it must be against the Bears. David Tate got a pretty good lick on the much bigger Herschel Walker. Tate goes only 177 pounds. Probably the right play. If he had tried to take him up high, he'd probably still be riding him into the end zone.
He had to pay him a nickel for the ride.
Newsom is apparently all right. He came right back in. Further discussion by the referee with members of his staff. We'll find out from Jim Tunney what's going to happen here. The infraction was apparently against Chicago, but
now you see Richard Dent. He's going to get in and find out and straighten out this whole mess.
yes.
The Colonel.
Why do they call him the Colonel?
Well, they say he's just like the guy with the chicken. He does one thing right, rush the passer. Well, I tell you what, he does a lot more than that right, though. He plays that run as well as anybody now. He's really come a long way in his career.
Correction, the flag will be picked up, no foul, completed pass is third down.
We knew that already, Jim.
It was a long discussion to find out nothing really happened.
Whose dirty laundry is that? It's not mine.
So it's first down for, no, not a first down, pardon me. It'll leave third down, and it's going to be a long four, really, for the Dallas Cowboys on the completion of Walker.
See, I know that the Dallas Cowboys really want to get that ball to Doug Crosby as well, number 84, because he's such an essential guy in their passing game for them. And he's one of those guys, as we said earlier, that Paul Hackett told us the other night, that they're depending on to really step up and take some of that pressure off those young people.
We've got a black cat convention going on here out of midfield, which means that you have to think that the replay guys must be having a little discussion. I don't know what they'd be looking at.
Star Trek or something, but they can't be looking at that last play.
and what it would cover, because they're you know, what they get to rule on is pretty much confined, and I don't know what would have happened on that play that they could be discussing. But we will attempt to find out for you, folks. The replay system will concentrate on plays of possession or touching, questions involving fumbles, receptions, interceptions, muffs, ineligible player touching a forward pass, plays governed by the sideline, the goal line, the lines, and the in lines and lines of scrimmage. But it doesn't, I don't think anything fits in here.
Hey, you know, the officials like to get a little airtime, too. Give them a break. Now they're telling Tom Landry.
That might be a question of where the ball went out of bounds, which was right in front of the Cowboy bench. We know that. And maybe a spotting of the ball here, where they actually are going to place the ball from where Walker was hit.
Tom Landry obviously satisfied with the explanation because he's looking at his game plan.
Yeah, he's worried about the next play, right? Which is typical of Tom. Let's plan ahead here and worry about what's going to happen next.
You know, I had an opportunity to talk to Al Levan, the running back coach of the Cowboys last night, and he was telling me about Herschel and the kind of dedication that he brings to the ball game. And he said, you know, they have meetings for the rookies during the off season, and sometimes they'll be at 6 or 7 in the morning, and guess who was there with all the rest of those guys?
Third down, 38, half-yard line.
Not 38, 34, Herschel Walker. And, you know, that's the kind of dedication he brings to the game, though. Just an exceptional athlete, an exceptional human being.
Well, big deal here. They finally decided where the ball ought to be spotted. That used up about 5 minutes at least. 5 Bear linemen on this third down and 4, and more flags fly as the eager Bears, including Hampton, who went back out there after his minor injury.
Yeah, now see, on that play, when Nate Newton backed up because that defense was coming at him, now the charges against the Cowboys. Had he gone forward,
Start, offense, left guard, 5 yards.
they would have been against the Bears.
So it was Nate Newton. Watch it here.
Watch him, number 61 now. He takes the fake there off of Dent. Now watch him drop back. See, if he goes forward, that means the defense drew him offside. But he went backward, and as a result, he gets the penalty.
And you saw Hampton react immediately to what Nate Newton did. He jumped in there. He was not offside. So now that backs the Cowboys up to third down and nearly 9 at their 33-yard line. They have Richard Dent in the Dent or Colonel defense moving around as a linebacker up. Is that a completion.
No, that ball was trapped down on the ground. It was trapped by Everett Gay.
Incomplete. Kelvin Edwards, the intended receiver. Pressure on Danny White from Al Harris.
Yeah, now watch, this ball is trapped down on the ground, and that's what the call was by the officials. And watch the receiver off the break. Now watch him come back down and try to scoop that ball up on a one-hand deal. But see, he's still bobbling it as he goes to the ground. And that's Kelvin Edwards. And then again, he's got that cast on one hand.
So the Cowboys will have to give it up. Saxon standing inside his 20. At the Bear 25-yard line.
Well, I tell you what, there's still a tussle going on for that football, but the officials have already signaled it's Dallas football.
Garth Jacks, linebacker number 53, comes up with the football. Richardson trying to steal it back for the Bears, but McKinnon flat out dropped that one as it appeared to hit him on the shoulder pad when it came down. And as he dove forward trying to recover it, he was buried, and McKinnon is receiving some attention out there now. There was quite a pileup of Cowboys going for the loose ball.
Saxon got great hang time on it, and as a result, Dennis is still looking up, and those defenders are coming right down in his face. Now look how high in the air he's looking up, trying to figure out where this ball's going to come from. It floats a little bit on up to his left, and boy, it just hits right off the shoulder pad, and now the scramble starts, and boy, he got a shot on the head when he tried to reach for the football. There that ball is coming down, and then boy, that's the kind of thing you like to get if you're a punter, that good hang time. And it just bounces off Dennis's shoulder. Now watch the shot coming in from the right side. Jacks is the first guy, and he just buries Dennis along with a host of other Dallas Cowboys.
Dennis McKinnon in a dangerous job as a punt returner, and he's always been a willing and tough guy back there. Does not like to fair catch him. And in this case here, he paid a heavy price. Well, coming up at halftime, our NFL Today crew, Brent and Dick Butkus, will have scores and highlights from around the league, and also the big trade 1 year later. Brent Musburger will take a look back at the trade that shook the NFL and is now producing bell-ringing dividends for the Rams. That's all coming up at halftime. And McKinnon is on his feet. We're happy to report for Bears fans, football fans, period. You hate to see the injuries. This has been a very hard-hitting football game.
Tim, bell-ringing dividends for the Rams.
Who could that be about? Maybe it's about Greg Bell.
Well, I'm sure you watched that Fighting Irish game yesterday on CBS along with all the rest of you Notre Damers.
Yes, yeah, I was jumping up and down through that one.
Okay, Mike Singletary's pumping up that defense now. Hey, they got to do it. They know their backs are against the wall here. They don't want to give up the touchdown.
10-0 Bear lead. 3:23 to go first half. Dallas at the 25. Walker to the 20. Second down. Singletary, Jones, Tate, all around. Big Herschel Walker. Walker coming into this game with 577 yards rushing, averaging 4.3 each time he carries the ball.
And Herschel told us last night, he says, hey, look, I recognize this Bears defense is probably one of the best around, but Herschel said he wants to be the best possible football player he can be, and that includes running the ball, blocking, and catching passes against the best defense in the league. McMichael, 76. I said it before, this guy is having an all-pro season. This time he gets a lot of help with the blitz. Outside linebacker Rivera coming in to help him out. No place for Danny White to run. He can't run up and step up in the pocket, and he can't turn outside because he's got linebackers coming, and as a result, he gets the trap.
Well, Dallas has done very well in sacks allowed. Only 5 in the first 6 games of the season. Their big offensive line has done the job. Today, they've already given up 4. pressure. And we have reached the 2-minute warning here at Soldier Field. The fired-up Bear defense up again.
A gain of 5.
Tim Ryan with Dan Jiggetts, Soldier Field, Chicago. A beautiful afternoon after a wet, rainy morning. 2 minutes to play first half. The Bears lead 10-0. Dallas with the football, but a fourth down at the Bear 30-yard line after the fumble recovery by Dallas on the dropped punt by Dennis McKinnon. And you can see that the Bears have had the ball much of this first half, and in this quarter, they have racked up the yardage. Dallas will go for it. Fight for Kelvin Martin, way overthrown. A flag down at the line of scrimmage.
I thought that the Bears defense may have left a little early on that play, and indeed that's the case. Richard Dent was across the line of scrimmage, I think, before the ball was snapped.
Well, they are playing with so much fire that that's sometimes when you get a little over-enthusiastic and get guys jumping in there too soon.
And you see Richard arguing the call.
Well, look at this, New England.
Was number 95. It'll still be fourth down.
New England on top of Cincinnati 14-0 at halftime. Now, listen to the numbers on this. Boomer Esiason, who had only 3 interceptions prior to the game through 6 previous games, 4 picks in the first half by Esiason. Doug Flutie, 2 of 4 for New England, passing the former Bear quarterback. Field goal try by Ruzek from the 33-yard line. A 43-yard attempt, and it is wide to the left. So the Cowboys come up empty after recovering the fumble. 1:48 to go first half. Chicago on top. Tim Ryan and Dan Jiggetts back as Tom Landry checks the short list of plays over there and trying to find a way back into this game offensively. The Bears have kept the ball, Dan. That's been the big thing, is that time of possession that you mentioned at the very beginning of the telecast has been the key. Anderson on first down gets 2 or 3. That running game, after they tried to throw the ball early, Dan, they started to run the ball. They just ate up the clock.
That's it. They just settled back into that running game, worked the play action passes, and did what they know they do best, and that kills that clock for them.
Anderson with 44 yards rushing up to that play and add another 2. Anderson on a pass, a flag down. Anderson has the first down yardage.
Yeah, and I guess what the call is going to be is Hilgenberg, 63, was downfield before the pass was thrown on the screen. He's leading out on that screen, and as a result, the flag came out on that.
Kevin Brooks made the tackle downfield. See what the call is here.
As an offensive lineman, you have to be careful and wait until that back catches the football before you take off the block for him downfield.
Jim Tunney.
Holding. Defense number 24 is declined. Result of the play is a first down.
Defensive holding call against Everson Walls.
Well, that's a strange call on a screen pass to a halfback.
Well, it turns into a Bear first down at their own 35-yard line.
Yeah, you know, look where that official threw the flag was right by Jay, and he was real close to the line of scrimmage. So you say, hey, look, maybe that's the call. But, boy, a holding call for a defensive back on a screen pass is awfully difficult.
Man, 9 of 19 passing from the shotgun. Short man Anderson gets a block from McKinnon. McKinnon hurt himself on the block.
Yeah, but boy, did he help the play.
Did he ever?
He blocked there. He really, hey, he worked on Manny Hendricks that time. Manny turned around, and all he saw was 85 in his face.
There's Anderson giving him a pat on the back. Thanks for the block. And here's a guy who was buried moments ago after he fumbled the punt.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things that Dennis McKinnon does well is block downfield. The Bears expect that out of all of their wing backs. Now, here comes the block right on the numbers. Watch him hit Manny Hendricks, and he gets 2 for the price of 1 because Robert Williams is right behind him. And then you see Neil Anderson take it up the field and duck out of bounds. He doesn't take the shot from Ron Francis.
So they have a first down at the 50. That is one tough hombre there, Dennis McKinnon. Some think he's a little too tough, and that bothers him. He say, hey, I play the game the way I'm asked to play. McMahon intended for Gentry, and he steals it. Dennis Gentry just refused to drop it.
Boy, I tell you what, Robert Williams has got to be checking his pocket for his rabbit's foot. Second play now he's been involved in this one. Hey, he strips the ball out of Dennis's hands, and you see Gentry bobbling it a little bit. Now he pulls away from the tackle and goes downfield and almost gets the first down, but he does a smart thing, get out of bounds to save the clock.
57 seconds remain first half. 2nd and 5 at the Cowboy 45. 2nd and 4. Inside to Neil Anderson. First down Bears. Mark Wellen on the tackle.
Chicago, number 2.
Bears take a timeout with 50 seconds remaining.
Now, the thinking here, if you're Jim McMahon going to the sideline, is, hey, look, worst case scenario, we're going to try to come out of this thing with a field goal. But let's see what we've got in our game plan that works for us to go to the end zone. And again, as you just heard, this is a 40-second timeout because we're not breaking for commercial. But that's what you start thinking about. What works for us down in this area? You're on that 40-yard line, 39, 40-yard line. Get in position where, at worst case, you get the field goal. Now, if you're the Dallas defense, you know what they like to do, the Bears, that is, like to work that short passing game. So maybe you start sending a few people here and there on the blitzes to try to get to McMahon.
Greg Landry.
He was Ernie Stoddard, the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. And you know he's got a couple of things in his back pocket. He was a great football player as well as being a great coach. He's in the Hall of Fame. He looks like a football coach, doesn't he?
He does. He really does.
You look a football coach in the dictionary, there's his picture.
First down at the 40-yard line. 50 seconds remaining. First half, Bears 10-0. Spirited Dallas Cowboys staying in this game. McMahon deep for Morris. He's got it. Touchdown.
Hey, I don't know if they can remember their offensive plays, but how do they remember that celebration in the end zone?
39-yard touchdown play. What a catch. And they just went through it again. That takes a lot of practice time.
Yeah, I was expecting Mike Ditka to come up and do it next.
Morris with 2 fingers taped together on his right hand. He dislocated his finger a couple of weeks ago. You see the tape in the high fives. Butler's point after is good. And the Bears had a critical time for the Cowboys. 42 seconds left in the half. Open a 17-point lead.
Now McMahon has been testing that secondary of the Cowboys deep all day. Now finally he drops back. He says, hey, look, I'm going for Morris over on the left side. Ron Morris has caught a couple of these passes over the last couple of weeks for scores, and he does the same thing there. He just takes it in on Francis. Francis pushes him out of bounds, but hey, it's too late. 6 points are on the board. You know, Morris wears those gloves. You'll look at this. He has some brown gloves on, and they are actually Mason's gloves. And he says that he gets a better feel for the football with those things on rather than the receiver gloves that everyone else wears.
39-yard touchdown pass, 75 yards in 6 plays. As the Bears work that clock well and really put some heat now on Dallas, because had the Cowboys been able to go in down 10 at halftime, well, obviously you feel like you can make some good things happen. They've been playing tough defense, and that one really hurts Dallas to give one up in the final minute of the first half.
Butler just had the ball roll off the tee on him. He's going to reset it. Now, if you're a Dallas special teams now, you're thinking, hey, look, we need to get something happening here, even with 42 seconds left. Get in position to make something happen for us offensively.
Ball goes out of bounds at about the 13-yard line. Again, if you joined us along the way, Steve Pelluer injured in the first quarter.
Dallas ball, first down.
The automatic ruling, and the Cowboys get the ball on the 35 because that ball went out of bounds. And that's what Tom Landry and his guys will get it pumped up from.
75 yards in 6 plays, another minute and 6 chopped off the clock by the Chicago Bears, and that has been really the big story of this first half, in that they have been able to keep possession of the ball. Danny White try to make something happen with 42 seconds left. Well, it looked like it was a screen to Herschel Walker, but it didn't really develop very well, and 4 Bears were there, mixed up in the traffic of the blockers. Harris, Douglas, Hampton, Richardson breaking it up. It's 227 yards of offense to only 58.
And again, that falls right into that time of possession thing that we talked about earlier. You see the yards passing just in this quarter alone, 95 for the Bears. They've been averaging around 200 yards passing per game. So that average is up because of this game.
2nd and 10 for Danny White. Uphill battle for the Cowboys in the second half. That's complete out to Everett Gay.
Now, see, the Bear defense will give you those little underneath patterns. They'll give that up because it's going to take you a year and a day to get down the field with that kind of action. What they don't want to give up is the deep stuff.
3rd down. White, that's a good pass to Kelvin Martin. 1st down to the 46-yard line. White zipped that in on the money.
Again, they'll give you the inside patterns, let you work back inside, but they don't want to let you to that sideline where you can stop the clock without burning a timeout.
Dallas now into Bear territory. They take a timeout. 12 seconds left. The ball at the Chicago 46-yard line. White will talk it over with Landry.
You see Kevin Sweeney, the backup quarterback, in there trying to help out Danny White. You know, in talking with Paul Hackett about this whole thing about the Dallas quarterbacks and how they like to bring them along in that 5 to 7 year time frame. So as one is aging and getting older, they have another young guy coming up. You see Scott Sekiels, he's another one of those guys that they're working into that program.
Well, they feel that it is Steve Pelluer's time, and they want him to become the accomplished starter in the fine tradition of Dallas quarterbacks. Meredith, White, but Pelluer knocked out of action with a concussion early in this game. White sacked. 5 sacks in the first half for Chicago. Hampton this time.
Boy, I tell you what, Tom Rafferty just got ran over at the center position, and Dan Hampton just made tracks to the quarterback.
Dallas, number 2.
5 seconds left. Dallas timeout.
I said earlier that Dan Hampton told us if he can't beat a guy one-on-one, then he shouldn't be playing anymore, and that's when he's going to give it up. Here he works against Newton. Now he takes that inside move off the twist, where McMichael comes inside. He goes outside, leaps over Rafferty there, and just grabs Danny White. Now, Danny didn't have the opportunity again to step up in the pocket because there's big pressure coming right in the middle of that pocket, and there's nowhere else to run. He did the smart thing by just taking the sack instead of throwing the football away. Dan Hampton, another all-pro year.
Bears have matched the number of sacks given up by Dallas through 6 games in the first half of this game today.
Hey, this guy here, Dan Hampton, is Bogart tough. You know, he's one of those kind of guys that plays with the injuries. You look at his hands, they're all broken up, but that's the kind of guy he is. Just tough, Arkansas kid.
I think he's got a helmet imprinted at the base of his spine from that hit from his own man Douglas earlier. And 2nd down, White steps up, nice catch by Everett Gay. But that'll finish off the first half. And that's the end of the first half here at Chicago with the score. The Chicago Bears 17, the Dallas Cowboys nothing.
Welcome back to our New York studio. Coming up now on our doubleheader games, some of you will see New Orleans at Seattle, elsewhere Atlanta at Denver, and for most of you, the 49ers and Rams, the 2 powerhouses in the NFC West. You know, a year ago this month, the Rams, along with the Colts and Bills, pulled off one of the biggest trades in recent sports history. All-Pro Eric Dickerson went to Indianapolis, linebacking prospect Cornelius Bennett to Buffalo, and the Rams reaped some high draft choices as well as a throw-in running back named Greg Bell. Now Bell is taking his toll on the rest of the league as one of the fresh new faces on the LA sports scene. In Los Angeles, they know all about big trades and how they can deliver overnight success, or maybe even lift a team to the top. And the results can be just as dramatic if that key player happens to be an unexpected bonus.
A lot of people have asked me, do I want to be the NFL leading rusher? I've never been on a team since I've been in the NFL that has won 5 games. So I'm already happy with the way my team is going.
Again, it's Dickerson. Hit behind the line of scrimmage. Ball's loose.
We're 1-5, which we're not really happy about. We lost some real close games. Some of it has come from mistakes that we've made, I've made. Would I rather be back with the Rams because they're 5-1? No, I wouldn't. That's behind me now.
A week of speculation ends today with a scene Colts fans will long remember. The NFL's
A year ago, Eric joined the Colts and led them to a division title. And while Eric still leads the league in rushing right now, Greg Bell is gaining fast. He's only 8 yards behind Eric the Great.
Greg, tell me now, how early is it Monday when you pick up the morning paper? Do you look down and see how Eric Dickerson did, how many yards he gave?
Oh, you find that out immediately here. I mean, every week I've had a chance to grab the Monday paper. I guess that's the first thing. Dickerson does this, or Dickerson had this, or Dickerson fumbled. You know, the headlines here, they make a point of trying to show exactly what Indianapolis is doing as a team also.
I think the expectations of our football team is not as high, say, if we played in California, in L.A., because everyone likes to win. Everyone likes to win anywhere, but I think it's more pressure out there.
It's hard to believe this is the same Greg Bell the Rams tried to trade all last summer. Injury-prone throughout his career, he finally broke through when Charles White made headlines. Now with White's return, Coach John Robinson couldn't be happier with the situation.
Last year we had Charlie White, I was the second tailback, you know, and there, you know, so we were desperate all of that last half of last year. So I feel great. I don't think any runner gets through a whole 16-game season. I think there are a few. I think Eric was maybe indestructible. Maybe Herschel Walker. Those guys kind of get into that kind of category. But running backs take a big beating.
I have a big heart. It's like a stallion, I guess. You have a stallion. Some can be a good stallion, and then you have a great stallion that stands over there with the long mane. And I feel like I'm the great stallion.
He's the greatest stallion we've seen in many years, and he has given Greg Bell a paycheck to shoot at.
Does Greg Bell have an incentive clause if he leads the NFC in rushing?
Yeah, I got plenty of incentive clauses.
What the heck what are incentive clauses? I never had any.
George never gave.
Never gave them. No.
Hey, Dick, in the Ram game with the 49ers, now 49er coach Bill Walsh scripts the first 15 plays of the game. Does he still do that?
Right. I talked to him this week, and he said, yep, we're going to run those 15 plays. And I said, what do you do? I mean, you know, the Rams have this new defense, this 2-5 business, a lot, you know, 5 linebackers. He says, I don't care what they're in. What this allows me to do is to check them out defensively and see where their weak point is. And then he says, as the game goes on, we start working on their weak points. So I guess it's working for them.
Dick, let's show everybody what the weak point of the Phoenix Cardinals is. That is the secondary. 23-10 now, and it is the Mark Rippon show. Watch him here. His first touchdown, right in the corner. Great catch by Art Monk. Dick, what about young Mark Rippon?
Well, what can you say? This guy's coming on like gangbusters. You know, Coach Gene Stallings of the Cardinals told me last night that you've got to control the line of scrimmage. Well, the Cardinals aren't controlling it, and Rippon is free to rip it because he's throwing it very well.
And there is Monk going in for his second touchdown, 23-10, and the Redskins trying to climb into a first-place tie. This one's going to really surprise you. Detroit leading the Giants 10-7. And, Dick, what happened to Pepper Johnson, the linebacker of the Giants here?
Well, he had Gary James on coverage, and he just, when Rusty started scrambling, he lost him, lost sight of where he was. Rusty oiled his arm and cranked a long one, and it's kind of embarrassing when you're sitting in those media meetings when the guy gets behind you like that. This is a case, that Giant Lion game is a case of one can't score and the other can't hold anybody, really.
Yeah, and wait till the New York media gets its hands on the Giants if they lose this one. Now, here is a tough defensive battle. 3-3 the tie. 6 sacks of Randall Cunningham by the Browns so far. New England has intercepted Boomer Esiason 4 times. They have just gone ahead 20-0, pending the extra points still to come. So they are dominating the unbeaten Bengals right now. Houston gets back Warren Moon. He gives them a big emotional sensational list, not to mention a 43-yard touchdown pass to Jack Gibbons. Raiders in Kansas City, Bo Jackson playing. He's rushed for 43 yards in the first half. Eric Dickerson, whom you just saw in that feature, has scored 2 touchdowns for the Colts. They lead Tampa Bay 21-10. Green Bay and Minnesota, Tommy Kramer knocked out of the game. Enter Wade Wilson, and right away he gets something accomplished out of the shotgun. This one to Leo Lewis, and still plenty of time now for the Vikes to come back, but the Packers have played a pretty solid game so far, and they have taken a 16-7 lead. Dallas and Chicago, all Bears. Another quarterback falls, Steve Pelluer. And Dick, what happened to Pelluer in this game?
Well, Steve, was in the pocket and he broke out to scramble, and as you'll see as we roll it here, is that he just makes a bad slide. See, he gets caught up there, and Mike Singletary finishes a nice hit and everything. It's just that Steve made a lousy slide.
Now watch this reverse.
All right, Coach Ditka's on the sideline. Throw up your arms, Jimmy McMahon. Don't throw up wide. All right.
Yeah, no blocks from McMahon. This is what he wants to see. Crank that right arm, Ron Morris, and could be a very, very tough go for the Cowboys right now. Those of you down in Dallas and all the Cowboy fans realize how tough that schedule gets. And we're going to continue with the NFL today on CBS right after these messages from your local stations.
And financial service needs.
Soldier Field, Chicago. Some people will go to any lengths to get on television, even float a balloon up there that says CBS on it.
There's a reason for that, and I'll explain it to you later.
You're looking at Soldier Field, a sellout crowd where the Chicago Bears lead 17-0 at halftime. And right at the conclusion of the half, Mike Ditka, the Bears coach, received his Hall of Fame ring from Pete Elliott. He was inducted earlier this year, and in his comments said he hoped that more tight ends would be recognized and inducted into the Hall of Fame in future years. He was the first tight end ever to make it into the Hall.
And I'm kind of looking forward to another tight end, John Mackey, making it to the Hall as well. And I know Mike got the honor, and he richly deserves it. Congratulations to him for it. Hey, you know what those balloons were for is Leslie Frazier, one of the former Chicago Bears that got hurt in the Super Bowl. He's got a charity here that he's working with, and all the Bears are working with him on the thing, and they call it Great Expectations. And part of that is they had a big balloon release today, and they allowed all these balloons to float out of the stadium. And now one part of that was that all the players came along with their young people, with their young children, and took pictures for a calendar. And that's part of it. And there you see the balloons, and they said hello to us and hello to you. Good luck with it, Leslie. He is now coaching, by the way, at one of the local colleges here in the area.
Well, the Bears will have the opportunity here to play some more defense, something they've done well in the first half. They will kick it off, and the deep man, Mark Higgs, along with Cornell Burbage. Rookie Higgs drops the ball at the 7-yard line. Now picks his way through traffic out to the 27. And a host of Bears waiting for him there, led by Glenn Kozlowski, and Danny White brings out the Dallas offense. Steve Pelluer injured early in the first quarter on a running attempt and received a concussion. He appeared to be all right on the bench. Does not anything to be, I don't think, overly worried about. There he is, still in uniform, but they're taking the precaution, and he has not returned. White has gone since then. Hit by Singletary, but picked up 5.
Tim, again, we talked about Herschel Walker earlier in the first quarter. We talked about the kind of commitment he brings to football and to life in general. And he said, he's not the kind of guy that football dominates his life, but yet still he's the kind of guy that can look at the broad picture, yet still concentrate and zero in on what he's got to do to be successful and to be the best football player he can be.
He's got great concentration, and it's exemplified in his effort on every play and in the numbers he's been rolling up. Surprising Green Bay lead over Minnesota. The Vikings struggling a bit the last couple of weeks. Green Bay coming out their big round in New England. Complete to Walker just as White released the ball. He took a good shot from Dent. But he got the pass off to Walker, who was just short of the first down by about a half yard.
What they did was they flexed Herschel out. He was out on the outside the tackle. They just brought him down the field about 5 yards and cut straight across on the yard marker underneath of the linebackers, and that's how Danny was able to complete the pass.
Bears lift David Tate, bring in an extra linebacker, Troy Johnson, number 92,
It's a semblance of their five-man defensive line.
White rolling for Walker, complete for a first down to the 39 of Chicago. They got him isolated on Singletary, and White delivered a perfect pass.
Tim, we had mentioned earlier that what the Cowboys had to do to get back in this football game was get the ball to into Herschel Walker's hands. And here, Danny White rolls out to the right. He finds Herschel one-on-one with Singletary, and that's a tough job to cover a guy with world-class speed down the field, one-on-one, and particularly if you're a linebacker.
Cowboys have rookie Dave Waddell from Boston College, their number 4 pick this year, and left tackle for Mark Tuanay. Tuanay coming off a knee injury, getting a little relief there from the rookie Waddell. Walker can't get wide, and he is dropped for a loss. Steve McMichael having a world-class afternoon for the Chicago Bears.
Well, he wasn't even blocked, though, on that play. He beat the block, I should say, right now off the line of scrimmage. Because I don't want those Dallas Cowboy offensive linemen say, don't tell me I didn't try to block it. But what happened is Steve just made a nice move right off the line of scrimmage and got into the backfield and made the tackle.
Loss of nearly 2 yards on the play. Second down, 12. White short drop. He's got Kelvin Martin for the first down. And a flag thrown after the play. Might have been a face mask there.
That's exactly it, and it looks like a 5-yarder.
Dusty Jackson, I believe, will get the call. There's the cast on Kelvin Martin's left wrist.
5 yards, face mask, first down.
He caught a pass for a touchdown, landed on the wrist, and didn't even realize he had broken it. Actually played into the second half before it really started to bother him. And just determined to play this week with all the injuries they had to Michael Irvin. Calvin Edwards on the limp. Martin put the cast on. He's playing. Walker. Bears string it out and hold him to about a 2-yard gain. Maurice Douglas and Mike Singletary.
I tell you what, Al Harris really strung that play out and allowed Mike Singletary to come up and make the stop. But watch on the outside of your screen on the right side, watch Al Harris, number 90, string this play out. He's working against the tight end Thornton there, against the tackle Gogan. And you see him working the play out to the out of bounds, and now Singletary and Douglas come up and make the stop. But the key is that defensive end runs that play to the sideline and allows the secondary to come back in and break it down for you.
Al Harris, who got that starting job, and William Perry went down with a broken arm, played very well at defensive end. Second down and 9. That is Newsom carrying, led by Dante Jones, but a pickup of 5, maybe 6 yards for Timmy Newsom. Tim Ryan with Dan Jiggetts here at Chicago Soldier Field with 11:04 to go, third quarter. Bears on top 17-0. The Dallas drive, led by Danny White at quarterback, has been their most effective of the game so far. The opening series in the second half. Kelvin Martin, Ray Alexander, Everett Gay, 3 wideouts for Dallas on third down and 4. Walker in motion. They want Walker, but White overthrows him. Incomplete.
Things are clipping along for the Cowboys. Then when they get down here in that area, that red area where they want to score from, where they've had a problem scoring from all season long, then they break down, and now it's fourth down for them. But you know what? Before, Steve Pelluer was having problems down here getting the ball in the end zone. As a matter of fact, he threw 3 interceptions on the goal line this year, and now Danny White's had difficulty getting in from the red area.
Well, they'll have to settle for the field goal try by Roger Ruzek. They'll spot the ball just outside the 25. A 35-yard attempt. Ruzek is 4 of 9 on field goal tries this year, and he misses that one. So the Cowboys come up empty again. 10:30 to go, third quarter. Tim Ryan with Dan Jiggetts here at Soldier Field. The Bears on top 17-0, and the best Dallas drive of the game is stopped, and they miss on the field goal attempt. Now, the Bears, meanwhile, have not dazzled anybody in third quarters this year. Look at that stat. But they are on top in this game, and they are 5-1 on the season. On first down, McMahon to Suey, ducks under a tackle from Burton, but Burton slowed him up enough so that there's very little gain on the play. Ed Too Tall Jones buried him. Too Tall Jones, his 199th game of his career over 14 years out of Tennessee State. Talking with Jim Jeffcoat about him, I said, does he preserve himself in practice? He said, boy, does he preserve himself.
Yeah, he said he's like Kareem Jabbar, though. They don't know how old he is. He might be able to play forever. But he keeps himself in great condition, always ready to go. And you talked about his boxing career a little bit last night.
Yeah, well, he was wise to return to football. At 37, he's still playing at the top of his game. Neil Anderson. Out to the 26-yard line where Jeffcoat meets him there.
Tim, we talk about the flex defense that Dallas likes to run, and then what you'll see is you see this guy here, he's backed off the football, and this guy is backed off the football, and what that allows him to do is slide along in here and act almost like linebackers when the play happens, and then they can get to the football without necessarily getting blocked, and then you see that flow of those guys in the flex, and they get over to make the play. Everybody always wonders, why does Dallas do that flex defense? Well, there you see John Wojciechowski, he's come out, looks like he might have gotten the finger in the eye.
I think he did get poked in the eye. Cesar Renti, the rookie from Oklahoma, has replaced him at left tackle. So Wojciechowski was worried about his strained knee, has to leave the game for something totally unrelated. They're looking at his left eye.
Well, you see more and more players wearing that plexiglass across their face mask, and that's the reason why.
I'd like to see all of them wearing those, especially the quarterbacks. Third down. Randall Cunningham is wearing one these days. Gentry escapes momentarily, nearly nailed by Gary Cobb, but finally Ron Francis able to get him. Cobb did a real good defensive read on that. Kind of a little Statue of Liberty type play for Gentry. And the Cowboys defense did very well. Chicago will have to punt. What a pickup Gary Cobb has been on waivers from the Eagles. Drafted by Dallas back in '79. They gave up on him. He played for Detroit, played for the Eagles, and coming back here, he's been playing awfully well for them. Wagner's punt. Calvin Martin lets it bounce. Now it rolls for the Bears to the 35-yard line of Dallas. Good punt for Wagner with 8:06 to go. He hits a 45-yarder. We'll be right back. I got to cover that event the first time we had it on CBS, and it's really very exciting. I recommend it to our viewers.
A little rich for my blood.
World-class polo. I can't afford the horses, but I can afford to play the admission, especially when it's free on CBS. First down, Dallas. Walker running and carrying Bear tacklers with him for about 7 yards. Douglas and Vesty Jackson and Richardson all getting a free ride. And look at that. Green Bay continues to lead Minnesota, Dan.
Well, you know, Tommy Kramer's out of that football game now. I guess it's Gannon that has to be playing for them, or maybe Wade Wilson has come back, but I kind of doubt it. But the result is Minnesota has not been functioning very well for the last couple of weeks, and that's a clear indication of it. And Green Bay's finally finding that stride that they've been looking for.
Well, a great lift from their 45-3 win last week. There's another surprising score. The Redskins beating up on Phoenix. Not so much that Washington would be on top, but the way the Cardinals have been playing defense, 30 points. Wow. Mark Rippon, 4 touchdown passes in that game. Walker, first down and breaking loose on the sideline. Herschel Walker to the 45 of Chicago before David Tate forced them out.
Boy, I tell you what, Tim, nice crisp blocking by Tim Newsome. Now watch him take on Ron Rivera, number 59 for the Bears, right at the top of your screen. Newsome gets that nice crisp block there. Now Herschel's able to turn the corner. Now watch him turn those shoulders upfield, square it up, and when he squares up those shoulders up the field, you are in trouble.
Herschel Walker cranking it up here in the second half. 15 carries now for 60 yards. Dallas driving again. White with lots of time, but has to go to the release man, Newsome. Newsome gets about 5. 3 Bears collide. wide, and they ran into each other there in the effort to stop Timmy Newsom.
The Bears are becoming their own worst enemies out there, and that's Rivera. Ron Rivera that's down on the ground now.
Ron Rivera, and Singletary and Hampton. Rivera got caught in the traffic as they all arrived on Newsom at the same time.
You see how the doctor is touching that spot, and you saw Ron jump. They always do that, the doctors, when you're down on the field. They'll grab the spot that sort of says, does that hurt?
That hurt, yes. Well, hopefully it doesn't hurt for too long for Ron Rivera. We'll be back at Soldier Field in a moment.
And this is the play that Ron Rivera got hurt on. Now watch right down here. Timmy Newsom rolls over and hits him directly on the hip. That's Ron laying down there just by that 0 on the field. Now we're back to action.
Walker on second down. Got only a couple. Singletary again. Singletary having a big day. Herschel Walker.
You see Herschel's number, 16 rushes, 61 yards. Now, he's been effective for the Cowboys and as time goes by, and as a result, you'll see now on this graphic, look down there, when he gets 11 to 15 rushes, his average goes up to 6.6 yards per rush. That means as time goes by, he gets better.
Third down, close to 5 required. Big play for Dallas here. White for Cosby, incomplete. Dante Jones, who had shifted over to the left linebacker spot when Rivera went out, had the coverage on the tight end. Cosby and White missing his target. Fourth down.
And he ought to send that Dante Jones ought to send a thank you note to Al Harris, because Danny White couldn't even set up in the pocket. He tried to roll out a little bit that way, and number 90, Al Harris, is right in his face. Saxon on the punt.
Saxon back for the punt. Flags down as the Bears came charging in and knocked back the center and everybody else.
Now, how would you like to be the center? Now, this is what they pay you for now. See, that ball hasn't moved. Ooh! False start. Offense. Now, see what happened, though. Somebody else either moved or Diassi might have tipped that ball just a little bit, and that draws that defense offside. But if somebody on that offense moved, and as a result, they get the penalty.
Diassi, a 230-pound linebacker, snaps for the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm sure he's not going to be buying the beers for the guy who made the false start.
Yeah, if you start out at 6'2", you end up at 6'1".
Saxon back at his 41 now. McKinnon just standing leisurely at the 15. It'll take a bad punt for him to get to handle it. Saxon lands it at the 2, and it bounces back upfield and will be down inside the 5. Good job by Mike Saxon. Eugene Lockhart prevented that ball from going any farther. And the Bears are going to have to start from inside the 5. Well, doubleheader action ahead. The San Francisco 49ers at the LA Rams, or New Orleans at Seattle. And some of you will see Atlanta at Denver. So big game action ahead in our doubleheader here on CBS this afternoon.
Well, I'll tell you what, that San Francisco Rams game is going to be a real big one for that NFC West division.
How can you get to see both of them? I'd like to see the New Orleans game and the 49er game.
You got to have a dish, or you got to have a tape machine.
Indianapolis beating up on Tampa Bay. Green Bay has lengthened its lead over Minnesota. First down, deep in Bear territory. Matt Suey plowing straight ahead. Little breathing room, picks up about 3 yards.
Now, you start thinking back to where Dallas has been in this game so far. They've had a couple opportunities on field goals, and Roger Ruzek has missed them. He was the guy that held out on the team and then came back later on, and still hasn't had a lot of success once he came back into the fold. Now, you got to start wondering, if you're Dallas now, you say, hey, look, do we bring Zendejas back in here because we need an effective field goal kicker to keep us in ball games like this? They could have 6 points on the board right now.
Dallas, as you can see, starting to move the ball, but can't punch it into the end zone or over the crossbar. And short drop, can't find a man open. Eludes the tackle of Bates. Captain McMahon about guys he was keeping his eye on. We mentioned Ed Too Tall Jones and his big reach. The other guy was number 40.
And if Billy had kept his head up, he might have seen a great play. He had his head down and he was flying. He saw Jim give him that little Olay move, and Billy just found a yard strike down there almost in the end zone. Picked up a little grass in the front of his uniform.
Brooks was the man who finally pinned him.
Yeah, Billy Bates is dangerous, though. You know, when you're running back and you're just dangling that ball out there and you're kind of ready to go down, you better look out because number 40 is on the expressway.
Third down. Lines are down. Neil Anderson stepped out of bounds back at the 27, forced out by Bates. But the flag occurred before the end of that play. It was back at the line of scrimmage. Line Judge Howard Rose talking it over with Jim Tunney. Summit conferences out here today with
this has been like
officials.
Iceland here.
To be against Dallas, evidently.
Jim McMahon had a lot of time and a lot of throwing lanes on that play. And what you try to do is from your offensive linemen as you try to get these guys here to cut all along the line of scrimmage, and that gives the quarterback the opportunity to see out and see that receiver as he's coming around outside. In that case, it was Neil Anderson. Then you see those cut blocks on the front side, gets those defensive linemen down, so you're able to throw the football.
Number 24, fine, is the only play, first down.
Illegal use of the hands against Walls. Danny White and Tom Landry looking ahead to when they get the ball back. They have been moving it in this third period. And Chicago has it. First down. Coming from the shadow of their goal line at the 4. They're now out at the 27. Play action. And for Morris, he's got it. And Walls on the coverage. Boris climbing the ladder for the catch. 19-yard gain.
One of the things that Ron Morris brings to the Bears is he's a crafty receiver, and he makes the catch even when it's a difficult one. Now watch him coming along right down the seam in the zone there. He reaches up, grabs that football. But the thing is, he's got great hands for a wingback, and that's kind of unusual. Both of their wingbacks are good receivers, both he and McKinnon.
Second-year man from SMU, their number 2 pick a year ago. First down, Chicago. And Wendell Smith. Wendell Davis, number 82.
And here he is. He's isolated out on the corner there with Robert Williams. He just runs past Robert Williams, looking up for the ball. He's got to do one of those little retreats to come back to it. And he was never touched. This guy could have probably gotten up and still ran. I don't know if sometimes those rookies don't realize that it's not college where, you know, if you're down on the ground, you're out. And you can still get up and take off unless you're touched.
That might have been the case, Dad. I think Davis maybe was still thinking back to the college days. He only had 5 catches coming into the game. So he's still adapting to being a pro. A 36-yard gain inside the 20. Intended for Thornton, overthrown out of bounds by McMahon.
Now, I'm sure Jim McMahon looked at Jim Thornton and says he looks at those big arms and everything and thinks maybe he's Superman, but Thornton says, hey, I forgot my cape. I can't fly up and get that one, okay?
That one is out of there. It'll be second down.
You know, with all that's said about number 9, Jim McMahon, the thing that he expects out of himself above everyone else is excellence. And that's the thing that he gets so disturbed about is when he doesn't put the right touch on the pass. He doesn't do the right things. As crazy as he may be off the field, and I don't think he is all that crazy, when he's on there, he's expecting perfection out of himself.
15 of 26 for McMahon on 2nd and 10. From behind. by Jeffcoat. Blindside shot. McMahon is up slowly and favoring his left hand.
Well, I tell you what, when a quarterback has his back turned on the rollout particularly, if you're the backside lineman, you're expecting that ball to be gone. Now watch on the top of the screen, that's where you're going to see number 77, Jim Jeffcoat, coming from. That time the guard pulled out, and that allowed that inside lane for Jeffcoat to get in. And boy, he relays a wrap on McMahon there. And that's where Jim rolled over on that hand, and that's what he's holding right now. Nice play by Jim Jeffcoat.
Third down. McMahon takes timeout. Now, my feeling here is that timeout might be for the injury, not for what he was looking at defensively. Favoring his hand as he comes off. 1:49 to go, third quarter.
What happened on the Jim Jeffcoat sack is the tackle, that's Wojciechowski, he pulls out. The guard, Thayer, he pulls out. And as a result, Jeffcoat comes in to make the sack on McMahon. No one blocks him. Watch it, number 77 just slides in there, works off the play, doesn't take the fakes, and he takes McMahon for a ride.
Now, those are costly mistakes. The way quarterbacks get hurt. And get a look at what's happened to McMahon. A series of McInjuries over his career. Boy, they haven't missed too many parts of his body. And you can now add the left hand to that list, which he just injured on the last play, or 2 plays ago now. But he's back there on third down. And gets it to McKinnon, to a Gentry, pardon me, intended for Gentry, but he could not hold on. And it was Manny Hendricks breaking it up, number 45.
And they saw Jeffcoat giving him McMahon a pat on the head. He got to him late, but you know, Jeffcoat's one of those kind of players that comes to play hard, but yet still he's not a dirty guy. He's not going to try to break your neck if he can avoid it. But he's going to come hard, play hard, and when it's all over, hey, you know, we're just a bunch of guys out here playing hard, trying to win a football game.
He's got 4 sacks on the season, having one of the best years of his career. 6 years out of Arizona State. Butler will try it from the 32-yard line. A 42-yard field goal attempt that is wide left for Kevin Butler. So Butler now 4 of 8. Make it 5 of 9 on the season. Having connected from 21 yards out earlier today. Some people couldn't care less about the National Football League.
Well, they've got a TV on board now, you know, with all these new portable electronics.
Oh, that's it. That guy couldn't get a ticket to the game.
That's it.
So he went for a sail.
Come down here for the atmosphere, you know, and stay out on the lake.
October sailing on Lake Michigan. I hope he's got a sweater on. It's a beautiful day here. 25-yard line. The Cowboys will start 1st and 10 from the Dallas 25 after the missed field goal attempt by Butler. White just missing Kelvin Martin. Martin complaining that he was grabbed by Richardson, and it looked like his acceleration did get slowed a little bit there, but no call.
Mike Richardson has had a good Sunday last Sunday for the Bears, and he's come back with another strong performance this week. You know, every time you turn around, the cornerbacks are getting maligned around the National Football League, but nobody's job is harder than those guys when they're out there in the corner by themselves against the best speed guys from the other team.
Him up immediately, and it's a 5-yard gain. So that was a great shot we had of Mike Singletary staring into the eyes of Danny White. How would you like to look at that all afternoon?
Yeah, I'm sure you know, if you're the quarterback, you're standing back there thinking, gee, I wonder if he can read my mind. That's the worst thought that runs through your mind. But you know what? Dante Jones, when he was talking to us the other day, said that he used to idolize the Cowboys. He's from Dallas. Now here's a kid, you know, this is his home team, and now he's playing against them in the big game, and he's having a pretty good football game for a rookie outside linebacker.
We're in the final minute of the third quarter. first down to the 42. So the veteran Danny White has said last week, I don't want to just mop up. I want to come in and have an opportunity to turn things around if they take Pelluer out. Well, Pelluer injured back in the first quarter, and White, however, fighting the clock because while they've been moving the ball, they have no points on the board. Bears on top, 17-0. Newsom, not much. And the gun is sounded. That's the end of the third quarter with the score. The Chicago Bears 17, the Dallas Cowboys nothing. Now pause for a word from your local station. Tim Ryan and Dan Jiggetts at Soldier Field about to begin the fourth quarter. Chicago on top 17-0. And interestingly enough, Mike Ditka's Bears went scoreless once again in the third quarter. The only team in the league not to get a point in the third quarter so far this season. Dallas, an uphill climb. White somehow got the ball off, and meanwhile Dent and who is that? Waddell, the rookie from Boston College, trying out their sparring technique. And Dent's giving his version to the officials.
And you saw Waddell was very smart for a young rookie, just walked away from the situation because he knows that Dallas can't afford to get him kicked out of the ball game. They're getting low on offensive tackles.
He has replaced Mark Tuinei. Apparently, Tuinei has hurt himself. We haven't had an official report, but he came into the game coming off a knee injury and evidently has been bothered with it. So it is third and 9. Danny White delivers on third down again. A flag is down. It'll be a Dallas first down. The ball stripped away by Jackson, but after the play was over, and Ray Alexander making a good play to hang on against Jackson.
Interference defense. Pass was completed and will be accepted. Pass is accepted. Penalty is declined. First down.
Well, they definitely accepted the pass. They caught it and they kept it. Ray Alexander, the interference call against Jackson, declined by the Cowboys.
Boy, and that's a game that the Cowboy fans won't soon forget, that 44-0 shellacking down in Dallas, as a matter of fact, by the Bears over the Cowboys.
First down, Cowboys. White's been able to move this team, but no points to show for it. Richard Dent came crashing in, upset everything. And Herschel Walker had nowhere to go. Hampton made the stop on the running back.
And now he's even helping the officials, telling them where to place the football. Well, I tell you what, the thing that he really did, though, is he just came right into this play. Now, from his defensive end position, he sees that trap coming right away. Now, he just comes down and crashes down in the play. Timmy Newsom can't get out to block him, and then he tries to do that little face shot when Dent is on the ground. So you see those kind of things work back and forth. Sometimes it's the offensive guys, sometimes it's the defensive guys.
Second down and 10. So no gain. White too high, picked up. Tate. Second interception of the day for rookie David Tate. Out of Colorado, getting the start for the injured Sean Gale. White sailed it a little, and Tate was waiting for him.
You know, sometimes it helps to be lucky and have good players playing with you. Now, David Tate, very alert in the secondary, sees this ball tip, just grabs a hold of it and takes off and makes the nice little run. Now, you know, something interesting about Tate was both he and Mickey Pruitt played together at Colorado. Mickey's that outside linebacker for the Bears, and they were roommates in college. Now, how many times do roommates in college get to play together in the pros?
He is such an enthusiastic, pleasant young guy. I'm very excited about starting today, and he's certainly playing well. First down. Sanders and the Cowboy front buries him. Dallas's front four has been steady again today. They certainly have not been to blame for the score as it stands now. now. They have been solid all season. Jeffcoat and Jones, the defensive ends, acting as bookends there and making the stop. Turnovers, deadly always in 4 losses, 13 of them. Last week, 3 interceptions suffered by Pelluer against Washington. And they've been hurt today by turnovers. Loss of nearly 3 yards on that first down play. And nowhere to go. And again, the Dallas front with the pressure. Brooks and Randy White wrap up McMahon.
Good pressure up front and good coverage in the secondary for Dallas. Now watch that Bear offensive line. They're going to try to set short because they know McMahon's only going to take about a 4 or 5 step drop. A little pressure there with Randy White. But now Jimmy can't find anybody downfield to throw to, so he does the best thing he can. That's get back to the line of scrimmage. But actually, the Bears end up losing a couple yards on that play. You see that rush in the first half as compared to the second half. They have not put the ball in Neil Anderson's hands or Thomas Sanders' hands to any significant amount in the second half.
Bears going backwards on the first 2 downs. Man can't find a man now. It goes to Morris, and a little behind him. Ron Morris couldn't bring it in. Morris unhappy with himself, and McMahon knows that it was not a good pass.
Here's Jim McMahon. After he threw that pass, he knew it was a little bit behind Ron Morris. As I said before, he gets real disgusted with himself, and he didn't do it just right.
So the Bears will have to punt. That was a good defensive series for Dallas. They've got to do something on offense. Kelvin Martin back to receive for Wagner. Wagner, not a pretty one, but he gets good mileage on it, and a Bear bounce. Out of bounds at the 16-yard line. So we'll return to Soldier Field with the Bears on top in the 4th quarter. At Soldier Field, the Bears on top. Steve Pelluer, the Cowboy quarterback, went out early with a concussion. Ron Morris has had 3 catches for the Bears, 74 yards on the day, and a beautiful touchdown grab of 39. Tim Ryan with Dan Jiggetts. And Dan, it's now looking like the Cowboys are not going to be able to really do too much effectively. The youngsters in this Bear defense are playing like veterans.
They sure are. You know, David Tate now 2 interceptions. Dante Jones has been extremely effective at the outside linebacking position. The Bears have gotten everything they could have asked for out of those young rookies.
Well, and it's not that Danny White hasn't played well since he's come in. He's really done a job moving the football, but they get down into that tough yardage territory. The Bears defense has been able to stop them, and the kids have been a part of that. White on first down, and hits again to Kelvin Martin.
And that just to reemphasize your point, Danny White has been fairly effective throwing the football. But hey, you know, when you get down in that 20-yard line area going in, you got to take the points. You've got to get points down in that area. You know, we were talking with Steve Pelluer the other day about how his relationship is with Danny White. And even Paul Hacker was saying this, well, you know, Danny's kind of a leader, and he's a guy that everyone looks up to and respects a great deal. And he tends to help Steve Pelluer. And that's something that kind of surprised you because you figured maybe, you know, he'd want to take the job for himself.
White on first down to Walker, who bashes off a blocker of his own and picks up about 3. Richard Dent, I think he ran into one of his own blockers on the play, Tom Rafferty.
Boy, I tell you what, I'll tell you who got a nice block on that play, though, was Crawford Kerr. Nice pull, trap block on the play. And then you see Kevin Sweeney, I believe that is, sending in the plays. Now, he's the fiery quarterback on the Dallas Cowboys. He's the guy with all the anxiousness, and I can't wait to play in him.
Well, they played well on their strike team a year ago and impressed them enough to have the Cowboys keep them. They've got 4 quarterbacks. All of them are dressed today. White, Kelvin Martin, first down yardage. A flag on the play back near the line of scrimmage.
And I believe it's going to involve Richard Dent again.
Richard Dent in a battle with the rookie Dave Waddell out of Boston College, the number 4 pick this year by Dallas.
Number 95, defense is declined. First down.
And evidently a no-no with the use of his hands against Waddell on the last play.
I'm sure what Richard is doing up there is trying to get Waddell the, that seminar very quickly on how to use your hands in the NFL. Tom Landry says, hey, look, we'll take the yardage on the play. Thank you very much.
The Cowboys with Darrell Smith out with a rib injury. Tuanay just coming back off a knee, and now down to the rookie. And look at the numbers here. In the second half, a big improvement for the Cowboys, but nothing on the scoreboard. White just gets it away. He's got a man wide open, Walker. And Walker breaks loose from the Bears. Finally, Richardson drags him down. He ran through David Tate. Tate was not hoping to have to try and stop Walker one-on-one. He acknowledged that. Said, I expect some help, but that guy's loose in the open field.
Well, you know what Danny White is doing now is, as we said earlier, when he comes into the game, he works that short passing game very well and gets that football out to his back. So there's a flag down on the play, and look at that call for you as soon as Jim Tunney delivers it.
Holding, 83, penalized for small foul, 10 yards.
Well, that was Kelvin Martin, evidently, and he was blocking out there for Walker after he caught the ball. And Martin...
How can a guy hold?
Illegal block.
He's got one hand in the cast. How can he hold anybody?
And he's not the biggest guy out there either at 5'9", 160.
Yeah, give him a break. Here he is now. He's blocking Vesty Jackson there, and he's doing a pretty good job. He's doing that little rooster thing where you just get in between the defensive man and your running back. Herschel does the rest of it. He runs away from David Tate, and he gives Mike Richardson a nice little ride for about 5 yards.
Yet another copy clutch down there by the men in the striped shirts.
They're going all right. Who brought the donuts?
That roar from the crowd you heard was the Green Bay score over Minnesota that we've been keeping track of for you. 24-7 in the fourth quarter. Of course, the Vikings in second place behind Chicago at 4-2 in the NFC Central. And the fans here want to see Green Bay win that one. Scrambling around, nearly slipped to the turf, but gets it off to the tight end Chandler. The third-year man from Alabama picks up some yardage out near midfield. It'll leave third down and about 4. Tate and Rivera at the tackle on the big guy. That Chandler, the tight end of the future for Dallas, 6'5", 240-pounder. Following in the size of Cosby. 19-3, Cleveland over Philadelphia in the fourth quarter. The Eagles, they look so great on the Monday night, struggling against the Browns, still without their starting quarterback. Second down, about 5, and nowhere to go for Everett Gay. Check to Timmy Newsom, number 30. Timmy Newsom surrounded by 2 or 3 Bears just as the ball arrived. Douglas and Richardson were there.
I tell you that when you start looking at the what the Bears have done to Dallas effectively on the defensive side of things, you start looking at the defensive coordinators, and that one is Vince Tobin. Vince Tobin, I think, has done an exceptional job here with the Chicago Bears. He wouldn't give him credit for it early on. You know, he said that he told us the other day. He says, "Hey, look, I'm not going to make any apologies for having the #1 defense for a couple of years running." Everybody's saying, "Gee, it's too bad Buddy Ryan left." Well, he's done a good job with this defense, even with injuries.
Well, excellent. When you consider the number of youngsters he's got out here. White. First down pass to Everett Gay inside the Bear 40. And White gets up limping. Pelluer out with a concussion, and White gets up limping. They've got 2 more quarterbacks in uniform today. Kevin Sweeney, Scott Sekiels.
Steve McMichael is the guy, number 76, and he's going to get rolled right into Danny White's leg, and he gets right on that ankle there, and you say, gee, maybe he could have held up a little bit on that one, because Danny just got the ankle. The ball was already delivered, and Steve rolls up on him. But then again, he had to stop hitting that quarterback all day. He's been on there for 3 sacks.
Danny White. First down at the Bear 38-yard line. Herschel Walker. Walker for about 3. Gang in the middle of it, as he has been much of the day. Houston beating up on Pittsburgh. Green Bay at 10-point margin over Minnesota. Wilson apparently the Viking quarterback today, if you've been wondering. Walker is up to 66 yards rushing, 19 carries. Dante Jones comes limping off from the Bear defense, replaced by rookie Mickey Pruitt. Walker to the 19-yard line of the Bears. Vesty Jackson forced him out there. Cowboys rolling again.
Now here, Herschel Walker's going to head out on the left side of his offense. Gets the handoff here. Now he breaks into the daylight. Just heads out on that outside. And again, as we said earlier, when he gets those shoulders squared up the field, you're in trouble. You know, one of the things that he told us the other day that was kind of interesting is he said, hey, from the time I was a little youngster, I've been programmed to win. He says, I feel like I'm a computer. And I'm just programmed. I got the software that says win. And that's what he tries to do every time out.
20 carries on the day. Crowd getting into it here. Walker for another 5. And Hampton and Waddell get up pushing and shoving.
Well, I'll tell you about into this game, Waddell's going to have gone at least 4 or 5 rounds.
Taking on some serious heavyweights in Denton and Hampton.
Well, to a certain extent, you got to show everyone that you're not afraid. If they know you're a rookie coming in the game, the first thing they're going to do is test you out a little bit, find out what your oil is made of, and then once they find out, they leave you alone. You see Singletary getting the signals from the sideline.
And you saw Kevin Sweeney signaling in the play for Dallas. Sweeney put the helmet on, we noticed there, hoping he'd get in when he saw White get up limping, but Danny White, playing well, is still there. That one incomplete behind Kelvin Martin. Apparently a mix-up on that route. It'll bring up 3rd down, and this has been the Dallas problem area. They're in that so-called red zone inside the 20 of the opponent, and now they have a 3rd down where they've simply got to make something happen. 12th play of this drive, Dan. Moving it, you can see 71 yards. The Bears -3.
But the points, Dallas needs the points. That's what we talked about early on in this game. You get down here, you've got to put it in and get some points out of it. The yardage doesn't do you any good.
Overthrown. The intended receiver. He was open in the end zone deep. White couldn't get it to him. Ray Alexander, a second-year man from Florida A&M, came out of the Canadian Football League. And again, the injuries to the wide receivers at Dallas have not given the quarterbacks, particularly Pelluer, the opportunity to work with him and create that timing and rhythm. Injuries to Michael Irvin and Calvin Edwards, the 2 starters. Closely lost Gerard last year with a broken leg. Hosby's been hurt. It's been a problem. 4th down. Wide open. Touchdown. Everett Gay. Lemuel Stinson fell down. The rookie number 32. And left Everett Gay alone in the end zone.
On the left side of your screen for number 32, that's Lemuel Stenson, slips down at about the 2-yard line, and he's trying to get in the coverage. They didn't see him. He's on the 5-yard line. It simply leaves the receiver wide open for the touchdown. When you play on that kind of turf, when you know it's loose down there, you got to wear some better cleats to stand up in there and make sure that you don't give up the score.
That game might have had him beat anyway, but finally Dallas gets some points on the scoreboard. Roger loses for the point after. Remaining to play. Regulation time has reduced the margin to 10. Chicago 17. The Cowboys 7. 83 yards. Doubleheader day on CBS here in Chicago. Chicago. The Cowboys have finally scored. 5:07 remaining in the fourth quarter. They went 83 yards in 13 plays. Danny White hitting Everett Gay wide open in the end zone. And the word on Dante Jones, he twisted his ankle, has played well in this game, his first start, and starting out of position for him at outside linebacker. Doesn't look like he will be back. Replaced by Mickey Pruitt, who had been starting the last couple of weeks after Jim Morrissey went down. And of course, Morrissey has been replacing Otis Wilson, so injuries continue to plague Chicago. Gentry on the return of Ruzik's kickoff to the 22, maybe 23-yard line. Well, we mentioned doubleheader day here on CBS, and two huge ones. The 49ers at the Rams. The Los Angeles Rams playing so well this year. New Orleans, team a lot of people think might go the distance against Seattle, one of the top teams in the AFC. And Atlanta will be at Denver as John Elway continues to try to get on track. And Atlanta struggling from the onset of the season and then having to deal with the tragedy of David Kudik's death a week ago. First down for the Bears at their own 22-yard line. Fingertips of Suey, and then promptly buried by Macon Muster, number 25, and promptly buried by Gene Lockhart. Eugene Lockhart putting the hit on McMahon just as he released the ball. No pity, it says on his shoes, on his pads, and he had none for McMahon there. Cleveland over Philadelphia, 19-3. How about that, Dan?
Boy, I tell you what, that's a big surprise to everyone that saw the Philadelphia play on Monday night. They looked invincible on Monday night.
Eagles fall to 3-4, and Cleveland moves to 4-3. Well, it is 17-7. The Bears over Dallas, 4:52 to play. On the catch from McMahon, stopped by Ron Burton, and it'll leave third down and about 2 for Chicago out at their own 30-yard line. And you can see the difference here in the second half. And finally, for Cowboys and their fans, it produced 7 points on the board.
Well, Dallas has been effective moving that football, but Danny White, who we were just told has a sprained knee and will not return to the football game. So indeed, that may be the final chance to get those long, extensive drives and use up the clock.
4 wide receivers in for the Bears on 3rd and 3. Man up to Gentry, and Gentry will be close to the first down. Nice tackle on the play by Ron Francis. But it looks like he has the first down yardage. He does. So Danny White, the second Cowboy quarterback knocked out of the game. 24 of 35, 242 yards, and a touchdown, 2 interceptions. And a disappointed Danny White, who obviously wanted a chance to prove that he could still be the number 1, although I'm sure he has faced up to the fact that Pelluer is going to be the man for the Cowboys for the future. Thornton, the tight end, off the wing in motion. Oh, a big defensive play. Garth Jacks, the linebacker, number 53, came pouring in there and hit Muster as soon as he got the ball.
They had to have man-on-man coverage with Brad Muster. Now watch on the left side of your screen, number 53. Garth Jacks is just going to read this pass, play action all the way. It's kind of a screen out there because you see Neil Anderson trying to throw a block, but Garth Jacks is in there on Brad Muster like sweat.
45 minutes. Jacks in the spot normally held by Gary Cobb. You know, when they got into their linebacker injury problems, Jeff Rohr, Hagman, and Jacks got the start for a little bit, but they went out and got Gary Cobb, gave him the job. So you can know that Jacks is trying hard to impress with this opportunity. Second down, 17. Man with time, tried to drill it into Ron Morris, but he was too well covered by Everson Walls. No Bears open on the play.
You know, one of the things that I've kind of picked up in watching these Bears along, what you'll see between McMahon and Hilgenberg is Hilgenberg will forget the snap count sometimes. You'll see him put his arm behind his back, so McMahon is the only guy that can see it, and he's checking with him. He's either got one finger up or two fingers up, trying to get the snap count right. And that's between the time McMahon called that and the play in the huddle, and they are going to the line of scrimmage. Let's see if he gets it this time. Oh, he remembered it this time. He might check when he gets down there, though.
On third down, and it's McKinnon, and he fights for the first down. Dennis McKinnon. McMahon picking him out, and McKinnon, when he caught the ball, he knew he had to get a couple more for the first down. And again, showing his strength and his tenacity, he just dove forward to get to the marker. Francis and Bates on the hit.
The thing you like about Dennis McKinnon is he's one of those receivers that you know he's going to go across the middle of the field for you, where he knows that strong safety is going to come up and try to knock him out, and he still catches the football. Great deal of concentration, and I think another result of that is he's excellent on special teams when those punts are coming down and 5 guys are trying to take his head off.
Only a 185-pounder. You know, he was upset by the article in Sports Illustrated after the Buffalo game that kind of painted him as a bad guy in his block of Shane Conlon, and he said, you know, it was a legal block. There was no penalty called, and, you know, I'm doing what's within the confines of the rules, but he has a reputation as being an overly aggressive wide receiver, and, you know, you've got to kind of take his side of things and say, I'm playing the game hard. That's the way I've been coached to play, and that's what's expected of me, and not just because not every other wide receiver goes around banging people like I do, why should I take the heat?
That's right. You know, hey, look, most coaches would love to get that out of their wide receivers. Let's be honest about it. They want to find somebody that can run down and catch the football and then block as well.
So we have 2:05 remaining regulation time, and the Bears with the football and a first down and a 10-point margin. The Cowboys have got to make something happen right now. McMahon intended for the tight end Thornton. Bates was all over him, and Thornton went down, but no call. That gets us to the 2-minute warning here at Soldier Field, and we'll return with Chicago on top, 17-7. A pretty day here in Chicago after a rainy, rotten morning. 17-7, Chicago on top of Dallas. 2 minutes to play, regulation time here at Soldier Field. Tim Ryan with Dan Jiggetts, and Dallas with 2 timeouts remaining. The Bears have all of theirs, and they have a 2nd and 10 and the football at their own 45. McMahon is 20 of 36, 243 yards and a touchdown. Chicago is rushed for only 6 yards in the second half. Moorhead, first down, Dallas, 36. Bates on the tackle.
You know, a fan watching the game might ask, why is Chicago throwing the football at this point in time in the game? We'll get back to that in a minute.
I want to hear your answer when we return in just a moment. Dan Jiggetts, I know you have 2 good reasons why the Bears are throwing the ball right now.
Well, the first one is, of course, they're only 10 points up in the game with, you know, over a minute remaining. And the other thing is that they have rushed the ball 7 times in the last 2 quarters and only have 6 yards to show for it. So there's 2 reasons why.
2 good ones. First down, Bears. And they'll throw again. Little sideliner, incomplete for Thornton. Couldn't hold on. Was looking at about a 3 or 4 yard gain at most with Garth Jacks on his tail, number 53. It'll be 2nd and 10. 1:41 remaining. A lot of funny things happen late in ball games, and
you don't take any chances with it. That's what you take the wins, and if you have to throw the football in order to win the game, that's what you do. And then you take care of the feelings afterwards.
2nd and 10, and that Dallas front has been solid all day long, and they've been particularly tough in the second half against the run. Sanders. He's got some room, but again, a good play. This time the cornerback, Everson Walls, with an ankle tackle holding Sanders to about a 3-yard pickup.
Everson Walls, my old buddy. We used to go to a camp up in New England together, up in Minnesota, and work with inner city kids up in the Minneapolis area together, and we had a great time doing it with Matt Blair from the Vikings, and he is an extraordinary individual, and particularly working with young people.
Yeah, he's a likable guy and a talented player. Well, we've got lots more after a doubleheader action ahead for you on CBS tonight. 60 minutes, and if we sometime look like a wholly owned subsidiary of Japan, is it because our best negotiators are for sale to the other side? Check that out. See if the answer comes on 60 Minutes tonight on CBS. Following 60 Minutes, Murder, She Wrote, and then the CBS special movie, Part 1 of Out of Africa. The Academy Award-winning epic starring Meryl Streep and Robert Redford. Part 2 is on Monday. I've seen that movie, I think, 6 times, Dan.
Well, how many times
have you been watching it again?
How many times have you been to Africa, though? You go over there every year on a safari, is that
yes,
right?
I do, and I do have a special interest in it for that reason.
Hey, can you take me along the next time? You got to take care of a flight and all that?
Sure, yeah, you can come along. Got to crawl around in the bush, watch out for the lions and elephants, though.
They have to look out for me.
That's a wonderful movie tonight. Don't miss it, folks. Out of Africa. 3rd down. Rookie fullback from Stanford on the receiving end of a little more razzle-dazzle action from the Bears on that pass play.
Yeah, and they get down in this area here. They figure they're going to open a trick bag on the Dallas Cowboys, and that one worked this time. It's to Brad Mustard, but he got a nice key block from Jim Thornton downfield, and Thornton turned back, peeled back on the linebacker that was chasing him and took him out of the play. They call Jim Thornton RoboCop. Boy, does he look like the guy, too. And the only thing he needs is a little armor on the outside.
There's with a 1st down. The clock down to 1:20. Sanders gets about 3, and flags fly down there near the 5-yard line of Dallas. Well, a Bears victory, which now seems apparent, will send them to 6-1 atop the NFC Central. Last report from Minnesota had Green Bay leading that game.
79 offense, 10 yards, it's still 1st down.
Holding call against the Bears will back him up. Kurt Becker charged with it, and Green Bay leading 34-14. So the Bears pick up a full game on Minnesota. They move to 6-1. Vikings will fall to 4-3. And Green Bay will pick up their 2nd victory of the season and 2nd in a row. Bears back out at the Dallas 21. Muster ran into his own man Sanders, but now has some room and runs over the cornerback Williams to the 10-yard line. Well, let's go to our NFL Update studio in New York. Brent Musburger.
All right, Tim, and then there were none. The last unbeaten falls today. Cincinnati loses at the hands of the New England Patriots, and now the Bears will be tied for having the best record in the league at 6-1. Back to Tim.
Well, I don't think the Bengals themselves believe they go unbeaten, but they might be surprised to lose to struggling New England. Patriots move up to 3-4. Bengals are 6-1.
Well, you know, the purchase of that team, I think maybe the Patriots have been picked up a little bit emotionally. They got a new owner in Victor Cunningham.
Sanders struggles back to the 5-yard line. Garth Jacks on the tackle. It'll leave 3rd and about 3 as time winds down here. And this Dallas loss will be their worst start since 1965 for the Dallas Cowboys. Landry wanted this game badly because naturally he was not about to concede anything in the NFC East. He thought if they could win here, they'd be back in the thick of it in that logjam in the NFC East. But it is now over, and he congratulates his protege Mike Ditka. So for Dan Jiggetts, this is Tim Ryan saying so long from Soldier Field, where the final score, the Chicago Bears 17, the Dallas Cowboys 7. CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League will continue after these words from your local station.